Chapter 2688. Chapter 2688. New York clansman, Brat, who killed Zoda? Master Yuan Hui continued to ask. If you let them go, I'll tell you who killed Huang Zhe and Zoda. Zhuowen pointed at the space-time roulette behind him and said calmly. Master Yuan Hui chuckled and said coldly, Do you think I'm a fool? Now that you're trapped in my trap array, your life and death are in my hands. Killing you is as easy as flipping my hand. Why should I let them go? Do you really think I can't break your trap array? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said coldly. Master Yuan Hui was stunned and immediately laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Even a god array master of the same level would need a certain amount of time to break the trap array set up by him, an eternal grade array master. However, this white-robed youth in front of him actually dared to say that he could break his trap array. He was really laughing his head off. Master Yuan Hui could tell at a glance that this white-robed youth came from the Eight Heavens domains. A guy who came from this barren land without resources was probably not even a heavenly grade array master, yet he dared to say that he could break his trap array. Zhuowen ignored Master Yuan Hui's ridicule and silently circulated the energy in his body. He immediately used the profundity of restriction he obtained from the Pangu banner, Primordial Chaos Infinity. Primordial Chaos Infinity, as the name suggested, could imprison anything. This profundity was similar to the Array Dao restriction of cultivators, but it was superior to Array Dao restriction. Moreover, Zhuowen also found that Primordial Chaos Infinity not only had the ability to imprison, but also had the ability to break restrictions. As long as it was related to restrictions, Primordial Chaos Infinity could break it. Master Yuan Hui's trap array was indeed powerful, but Zhuowen was more confident in Primordial Chaos Infinity. Primordial Chaos Infinity was the profundity of the Pangu banner. Although Primordial Chaos Infinity might not be able to completely break the array restriction, Zhuowen believed that it would not be a problem to break a small gap and let the space-time roulette escape. Thinking of this, Zhuowen waved his right hand and the power of Primordial Chaos Infinity swept out. It turned into a purple light and landed on the edge of the trap array on the left. Master Yuan Hui saw this scene and did not stop it. However, the mocking smile on his face became even more intense. In his opinion, Zhuowen was just a joke. He wanted to see what would happen to this guy who was seriously injured by the backlash of the trap array restriction. His trap array was not an ordinary trap array. It also contained a powerful killing intent. Once a cultivator was trapped inside and tried to escape from the trap array, they would suffer a backlash from the trap array. However, what happened next made Hui's eyes too was Yuan Hui was stunned Chaos Infinity ITI. He realized that the moment Zhuowen's attack landed on the edge of the trap array, the energy shield at the edge of the trap array shook violently. Then, a huge gap cracked open. Then, Zhuowen immediately controlled the space-time roulette and escaped from the gap before Master Yuan Hui could react. This guy. How did he do it? Master Yuan Hui muttered to himself after he came back to his senses. He was furious. An existence that he regarded as an ant had escaped from the trap array he had set up. This was a slap to his face. I must kill you. Master Yuan Hui's killing intent was monstrous. He immediately took a step forward and chased after the space-time roulette at an extremely fast speed. In the space-time roulette, Zhuowen's eyes were gloomy. He realized that Master Yuan Hui was constantly approaching from 100,000 miles behind him. He had already pushed the space-time roulette's speed to the limit, but he still couldn't shake off Master Yuan Hui. Instead, the distance between them was constantly being pulled closer. Zhuowen knew that he couldn't continue like this. Otherwise, Master Yuan Hui would eventually catch up to him. You guys go first. I'll hold off Master Yuan Hui. Zhuowen summoned Xiao He and let Xiao He control the space-time roulette. Before anyone could react, he had already rushed out of the space-time roulette and faced Master Yuan Hui. When everyone finally reacted, They could only vaguely see Zhuowen's back standing in the distant starry sky. Brother Zhuo is going to face Master Yuan Hui alone? Fire Plume asked worriedly. As a cultivator of the Xianmi heavenly domain, Fire Plume knew very well how terrifying Master Yuan Hui was. Even a second-step Dao validation cultivator would be extremely cautious in front of Master Yuan Hui, let alone Zhuowen. Mu Qinshu frowned slightly and remained silent. Look, something is rushing towards us. Suddenly, Tong Qimei pointed at the distant starry sky in front of the space-time roulette. There, a light spot was rushing towards them at an incredible speed. Its speed was so fast that it shocked the world. What is that? It's so fast! Fire Plume exclaimed in surprise. Mu Qinshu also raised her head to look at the light spot. Her beautiful eyes revealed a confused look. She didn't know why, but the aura emitted by the light spot gave her a sense of familiarity. It was a very strange feeling. It's a ball of flames. It seems like there's a figure in the flames. Tong Qimei cried out in alarm when the speck of light got closer. Mu Qinshu, Fire Plume, and the others finally saw the figure in the flames clearly. Moreover, the figure was rushing towards them, which made them extremely puzzled. Whoosh! The flame landed in front of the spacetime roulette. Immediately, the robust man surrounded by flames knelt on one knee and faced Mu Qinshu's direction. This lowly one, Kong Shi of the Phoenix people, pays his respects to Milady. Mu Qinshu was stunned when she heard this. Fire Plume and the others were even more stunned. You're from the Phoenix people? Fire Plume asked with a strange look in his eyes. Kong Shi coldly glanced at Fire Plume until the latter felt uncomfortable. Only then did Kong Shi's gaze fall on Mu Qinshu. His eyes were blazing with intense passion. His heart was surging with excitement because when he approached the woman in front of him, Kong Shi could clearly feel his bloodline boiling, trembling, and fearful. Only the truly noble experts among the Phoenix people could cause such an abnormal reaction in his bloodline. They were also the true rulers of the Phoenix people. There was no doubt that the beautiful woman in front of him was not only one of his clansmen, but also possessed an extremely rich Phoenix bloodline. She was extremely extraordinary. No wonder she could resonate with the ancestral land. This clansman in front of me is a true genius. If she can enter the Phoenix people's nirvana rebirth, she will be even more heaven-defying. Our Phoenix people will have hope of rising again. Thinking of this, Kong Shi's reverence for Mu Qinshu grew even more. In the Eldritch Heaven domain, all the races valued bloodlines. The nobility of one's bloodline also determined one's future achievements and directly affected one's future path. Chapter 2689. Kong Shi. Although Mu Qinshu didn't know the origins of the Phoenix people, she could guess that the Phoenix people had something to do with the Phoenix bloodline in her body. Moreover, from Kong Shi's attitude, Mu Qinshu could also guess that the Phoenix bloodline she had awakened was extraordinary. Otherwise, Kong Shi wouldn't be so respectful. Although Mu Qinshu could not see through Kong Shi's specific cultivation, from the powerful aura faintly emanating from Kong Shi, Mu Qinshu knew that this Kong Shi in front of her must be a second-step Dao-confirming expert. Mu Qinshu's eyes lit up when she thought about how her husband was facing Master Yuan Hui alone. My lord, you have an extremely powerful Phoenix bloodline in your body. It's too dangerous for you to be outside. Not only will the Xianmi heavenly domain's human race covet you, but if the other races in the primitive heavenly domain detect your bloodline, they won't let you go either, Kong Shi said respectfully. What do you mean? Mu Qinshu asked calmly. Follow me to meet the Phoenix people. Your bloodline is so powerful. If you can obtain the power of nirvana, you will become the new saintess of the Phoenix people. You will enjoy endless glory and become extremely powerful, Kong Shi said. Mu Qinshu didn't answer Kong Shi directly. Instead, she said calmly, just now, a divine array master of the human race chased after me. In order to save me, my husband blocked that divine array master alone. Now you have to help my husband. Kong Shi was stunned and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He didn't expect Mu Chenxue to have a Dao companion. Moreover, from the way she addressed him, it could be seen that Mu Chenxue valued her Dao companion very much. This made Kong Shi very unhappy. In Kong Shi's eyes, Mu Chenxue was bound to become the saintess of the Phoenix people. Since she was the saintess, she had to be pure. How could she have a Dao companion? If this matter were to spread to the ears of the other clans, it would be a disgrace to the Phoenix clan. However, Kong Shi naturally wouldn't say this in front of Mu Chenxue. After all, once Mu Chenxue joined the Phoenix people, her status would instantly surpass his. He didn't dare to offend his future boss. However, Kong Shi was already unhappy with the Dao companion mentioned by Mu Chenxue. If there was a chance, he wouldn't mind making that person suffer a little. What? You're not willing? If you don't want to, I won't force you, but I won't go to the Phoenix people either. When Mu Chenxue saw Kong Shi's embarrassed expression, her beautiful eyes immediately turned cold, but her heart was a little anxious. Right now, she couldn't find a strong helper. Kong Shi, who had delivered himself to her door, was obviously not weak. If she had Kong Shi's help, she might be able to fight against Master Yuan Hui. Kong Shi smiled bitterly and hurriedly said, "My lady, you must be joking. As long as it's your order, Kong Shi naturally won't refuse. Now, please lead the way. Kong Shi will go and take a look. Come with me." Mu Chenxue nodded and calmly instructed Xiao He to return the way they came. Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and the others stood on the deck and didn't say a word. They also knew that they couldn't interrupt. They could feel that Kong Shi's aura was extremely powerful. It might not be weaker than Master Yuan Hui. They absolutely didn't dare to casually interrupt such a big shot. After all, Kong Shi was polite to Mu Chenxue because Mu Chenxue had a powerful Phoenix bloodline. Otherwise, with Kong Shi's strength, how could he be so polite to Mu Chenxue, who was only the heavenly Dao master? Moreover, they weren't Mu Chenxue. If they casually interrupted, Kong Shi would probably immediately teach them a lesson. Zhuowen took a deep breath and put his left index and middle fingers together. Then, he suddenly hooked them up and circulated the profound meaning of forbidden, primordial chaos infinity, and blasted it behind him. Instantly, the formation disk that Master Yuan Hui had thrown out was blasted to smithereens by Zhuowen's hook. The killing formation contained within also vanished like smoke. Grandmaster Yuan Hui's eyes were overflowing with killing intent. The formations he had unleashed time and time again were actually ineffective against Zhuowen. They were all destroyed by him. This made Grandmaster Yuan Hui feel both shock and anger towards Zhuowen. He wanted nothing more than to immediately kill Zhuowen. Of course, Master Yuan Hui was also extremely puzzled. His level in the Tao of formations was already considered high. In the Xianmi heavenly domain, there weren't many people who could surpass him in the Tao of formations. It was very difficult for ordinary people to break through his formations, let alone someone like Zhuowen, who was able to shatter his formations in an instant. This was just too strange. Master Yuan Hui guessed that Zhuowen definitely had some kind of treasure that specialized in restraining formations. If he could obtain this treasure in Zhuowen's hands, Master Yuan Hui's heart couldn't help but burn. When the time came, he would be even more fearless when facing those difficult formations. This would be extremely useful for him when he entered the secret realm in the future and broke through the great formations. I have to kill this kid. Not only is his strength terrifying, but he also has this kind of method to break formations. He definitely has a huge secret. Once I kill him, all his secrets will be mine. Grandmaster Yuan Hui thought to himself. His methods had indeed become even more ferocious. Master Yuan Hui waved his sleeve and actually took out a chessboard made entirely of crystal from his small world. Master Yuan Hui formed a seal with both hands, then slapped his palms on the chessboard. An invisible ripple rapidly swept out from the chessboard. It moved extremely quickly. Zhuowen only felt a gentle breeze brush past his face. Afterwards, he became puzzled. Afterwards, he discovered that there were two lines that intersected beneath his feet. He was familiar with this intersection. It was the intersection of the lines on the chessboard. He looked around and discovered that the starry sky had formed a huge chessboard. Zhuo, on the other hand, seemed to have become an insignificant chess piece on this huge chessboard. This is a life-bound God artifact that I've refined after studying it for a very long time. It's called the world of chess. In the world of chess, your life and death are no longer up to you. Master Yuan Hui hovered in the center of the chessboard. He looked down at Zhuo indifferently, as if he was looking down on all life. Zhuo's heart sank. Although his movements were not restricted by much as he stood on the chessboard, a layer of haze appeared in his heart. Bang! 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 As expected, a white chess piece suddenly shot out from the nearby chessboard. Instead of calling it a chess piece, Zhuo felt like it was more like a huge, white rock. It just looked like a chess piece. Rumble! The chess piece moved extremely quickly. It shot through the air and landed above the intersection where Zhuo stood. Afterwards, it plummeted straight down as if an invisible hand had grabbed the chess piece and wanted to land it on the intersection where Zhuo stood. Zhuo wanted to dodge, but he discovered that the lines on the chessboard began to light up the moment he raised his foot. Afterwards, he discovered that the lines were indestructible, revolving around Zhuo. Chapter 26:90. Predicament. Zhuo also sensed the power and danger of these lines. In the end, he did not take a step forward. Instead, he faced the huge chess piece that was flying towards him. Zhuo did not hesitate to unleash the power of the three-star Pangu sacred body. He punched out, and a series of explosions came from the starry sky. It was as if something powerful had exploded inside the starry sky. Boom! Zhuo's heart sank when his fist landed on the chess piece. This was because he found that the strength of the chess piece was beyond his expectations. Seal! Zhuo did not hesitate to use the ultimacy, Hong Meng Wuji, to seal the chess piece in midair. He then jumped up and landed on the chess piece. Whoosh! 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 The moment Zhuo landed on the chess piece, other chess pieces also flew out from the other positions on the chessboard. These chess pieces were black and white, but they all had the same goal. They were all heading towards Zhuo. Zhuo activated Hong Meng Wuji to the extreme. The moment the chess pieces landed in front of him, they were all frozen in midair by his Hong Meng Wuji ultimacy. They became his stepping stones. Zhuo also relied on these chess pieces to pave the path under his feet. The end of the path was the position of Tianyuan, which was also where Master Yuan Hui was. Master Yuan Hui looked at Zhuo, who was getting closer to Tianyuan, with a look of surprise. He did not expect this guy to come up with such a way to get close to Tianyuan. The world of chess is dominated by me. You can't get close to Tianyuan. Master Yuan Hui shook his head and then stomped his right foot. Suddenly, the lines on the chessboard broke away and leaped into the sky. They chaotically intertwined and formed an unprecedentedly huge monster with a human face and a snake's body. Roar! The monster with a human face and a snake's body opened its huge mouth and exuded a choking stench. Master Yuan Hui sneered as he looked at Zhuo, who was still dealing with the chess pieces around him. He did not think that Zhuo could escape his attack. Zhuo looked at the monster that was rushing towards him and frowned. He formed a seal with his right hand and used the ultimacy sky opening blade. The surface of his right palm turned into a blade. A faint light covered the surface of his palm. It was as if a light blade had suddenly shot out. Roar! The sky opening blade, which stood sky opening blade, landed on the head of the monster. Sky opening blade. The monster sky opening blade. The sky opening blade. Blood, Zhuo, blood, his face, and his face. Using two ultimacies at the same time. Is sky opening blade. Is sky opening translation using ultimacy. Zhuowen looked at the shocked Master Yuan Hui and used his left hand to use the ultimacy primordial infinity. He stopped the chess pieces that were rushing towards him and began to change their paths in an attempt to escape from the chessboard. Master Yuan Hui came back to his senses. When he saw that Zhuowen was trying to escape, he immediately thought of the move that Zhuowen had just used. It must have been his greatest trump card and consumed a lot of energy. Master Yuan Hui, of course, would not let Zhuowen leave. Master Yuan Hui rolled up his right sleeve. The surface of his right hand was engraved with red runes. Then, Master Yuan Hui's right hand formed a palm and slammed it on the ground. In an instant, the red runes emitted a dazzling red light. Then, the entire chessboard surged like a tsunami. The surface of the chessboard was undulating. Then, numerous chess pieces flew out and shot towards Zhuowen. When Zhuowen saw the densely packed chess pieces, his expression immediately changed. Every chess piece on the chessboard was extremely powerful. At most, Zhuowen could only deal with a dozen chess pieces at the same time. However, there were hundreds and thousands of chess pieces this time. There were too many of them. Zhuowen knew that he would not be able to deal with them all. Zhuowen sighed. He still had the powerful trump card of Hou Yi's godly arrow. He knew that as long as he shot out Hou Yi's godly arrow, he would be able to severely injure Master Yuan Hui or even kill Master Yuan Hui. However, he knew that Hou Yi's godly arrow was a single-target attack. Moreover, it took too long to charge up. If he did not lock onto Master Yuan Hui immediately, he would be in a passive position. He might even be killed by Master Yuan Hui's sneak attack. Zhuowen using Hou Yi's god arrow to block such a large-scale attack would be an idiotic move. Moreover, Zhuowen did not have any powerful defensive means. He could not block the attacks of so many chess pieces. At the critical moment, Zhuowen took out the escape talisman that he had plundered from Huang Zhe's small world. Huang Zhe was the heir of Huang Ji family. The escape talisman on him was extremely high level. Zhuowen did not understand it. He only knew that the escape talisman was very powerful. Now that he was in such a life-and-death situation, he did not hesitate to use one of the escape talismans. Bang! Zhuowen disappeared on the spot and appeared at the edge of the chessboard. However, he was blocked by the energy barrier at the edge and was sent back into the chessboard. Zhuowen's expression turned ugly. He knew that Master Yuan Hui still had a backup plan. The chessboard was a huge barrier. It was not as simple as it looked. Escape talisman? It seems like you can really kill Crown Prince Huang Zhe. This escape talisman belongs to Crown Prince Huang Zhe. Master Yuan Hui looked at Zhuowen, who was sent back by the chessboard barrier. He also saw the talisman that had turned to ashes in Zhuowen's hand and sneered. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Another batch of hundreds and thousands of chess pieces tore through the air and surrounded Zhuowen from all directions. They crushed towards Zhuowen again. Zhuowen felt helpless. He could only use the escape talisman again. He had obtained a total of 12 escape talismans from Huang Zhe. Now that he had used 2 of them, it made his heart ache. Next, Zhuowen could only use the escape talisman again and again. Master Yuan Hui's chessboard barrier was too confining. With Zhuowen's strength, he could not break it. Master Yuan Hui also saw that Zhuowen had the ability to break the barrier. Therefore, after Zhuowen used the escape talisman, he immediately attacked to prevent Zhuowen from using the profound primordial infinity. Zhuowen was pressured by Master Yuan Hui's continuous attacks. He did not even have the time to use the profound primordial infinity. He could only crush the escape talisman in a hurry. Seeing that the escape talismans in his hand were getting fewer and fewer, Zhuowen's heart sank. When Zhuowen crushed the last escape talisman, he let out a soft sigh. He could only watch helplessly as countless chess pieces surrounded him from all directions. He decided to give it a try. He wanted to use the ultimate profound Pangu's shadow. This ultimate profound was the most powerful profound of the Pangu banner. It was said that at least the 7-star Pangu sacred body was required to use it. Otherwise, the body might not be able to withstand it and directly collapse. Boom! Chapter 2691. Big Word. Zhuan was startled and could not help but look behind him. Only then did he realize that a man surrounded by flames had landed on the edge of the chessboard like a god descending to the mortal world. It was this man who had shattered the chessboard's barrier with a single punch, indirectly saving Zhuowen's life. At the same time, Zhuowen also noticed the space-time roulette behind the man. Mu Chenxue, Fire Plume, and the others were on it. When they saw that Zhuowen was unscathed, they all heaved a sigh of relief. Master Yuan Hui frowned slightly and could not help but look at the man surrounded by flames. He felt a sense of danger from this man and could not help muttering to himself, "Eternal Overlord?" Eternal Overlord was the third stage of the second step of Dao validation. Theoretically, it was on the same level as Master Yuan Hui. After all, Master Yuan Hui was an eternal level array Dao master. However, in terms of combat strength, Master Yuan Hui was not as good as a real Eternal Overlord. After all, Eternal Overlords were cultivated and specialized in combat. They were extremely powerful. On the other hand, Eternal Level Array Dao Master mainly refined arrays, not for combat. In a one-on-one fight, Eternal Level Array Dao Master would be at a disadvantage. Therefore, Master Yuan Hui was extremely wary when he learned that the man who had suddenly appeared was an Eternal Overlord. "Your Excellency, who are you?" "I am Yuan Hui of the Huangji family. Why are you interfering in my private affairs?" Master Yuan Hui said coldly. The flaming man who had suddenly appeared was none other than the Phoenix people's powerhouse, Kong Shi. Because the Phoenix people looked almost exactly the same as the human race, the only difference was the Phoenix bloodline in their bodies. Therefore, it was impossible to tell the difference between the Phoenix people and the human race. Because Master Yuan Hui had sealed the passage to the primitive heavenly realm, he subconsciously thought that the powerhouses of the primitive heavenly realm could not enter, so he did not think that Kong Shi was from the primitive heavenly realm. Kong Shi didn't even look at Master Yuan Hui. Instead, his attention fell on Zhuowen. He said coldly, "You are Zhuowen?" Zhuowen frowned slightly. He realized that the moment Kong Shi looked at him, he felt that this person's gaze was somewhat unfriendly. Although Zhuowen felt uncomfortable with this person's gaze, this person had saved his life after all, so he still cupped his fists and thanked him politely. Kong Shi sneered and ignored Zhuowen. Instead, he shifted his gaze to Master Yuan Hui. Zhuowen was baffled. He felt that this man who had suddenly appeared seemed to have a bad impression of him. Especially after this sneer, Zhuowen was somewhat speechless. He didn't seem to have done anything to make this man unhappy. Moreover, he had never seen this person before. Zhuowen stepped onto the space-time roulette. Fire Plume and Steel Plume looked at Zhuowen strangely. They never thought that Zhuowen would be able to tangle with Master Yuan Hui for so long. This was too abnormal. Zhuowen looked at Mu Chenxue and asked, "Chenxue, who is this person?" Mu Chenxue told him everything that had happened, not hiding anything. "Then, this person is a powerhouse of the Phoenix people?" Zhuowen asked in surprise. Mu Chenxue nodded. Fire Plume quickly added, "The Phoenix people are one of the 4 Shenzhen of the Great Desolate Heavenly Realm. They are one of the top 10 races in the Great Desolate Heavenly Realm and are extremely powerful." Hearing this, Zhuowen fell silent. Then he looked at Mu Chenxue and said, "Chenxue, are you planning on going to the Phoenix people with this person?" Mu Chenxue revealed a faint smile and said, "Husband, you should be able to tell. I am too weak. Whether it is the Xianmi Heavenly Realm or the Great Desolate Heavenly Realm, I am at the lowest level of cultivation. If I don't think of ways to become stronger, I won't be able to protect the people I want to protect. I don't like this kind of powerlessness." Zhuowen gave a sigh in his heart. Actually, when he heard Mu Chenxue talk about the Phoenix people, he had already guessed that Mu Chenxue would want to go with them. This was because he could feel Mu Qinshue's desire to become stronger. It was just like Zhuowen himself. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, he did not want to be at the bottom and did not want to be a burden to others. Husband, although my decision is a bit unfair to you. Mu Qinshu could see that Zhuowen was a bit disappointed. She wanted to explain, but she was cut off by Zhuowen. Zhuowen said with a gentle smile, Chen Shui, as long as it's your decision, I will not go against it. Actually, your decision is correct. The Phoenix bloodline in your body is too strong. If you don't go back to the Phoenix people and don't seek the protection of the Phoenix people, your bloodline will be coveted by many people. Mu Qinshu looked at Zhuowen and her eyes misted over. She emotionally said, Husband, thank you. Zhuowen nodded. Then he looked at the Master Yuan Hui and Kong Shi not far away. Zhuowen's eyes revealed killing intent as he said, Chen Shui, this Master Yuan Hui must be killed, otherwise he will become a disaster. Mu Qinshu nodded. Even without Zhuowen saying this, she did not plan on letting this Master Yuan Hui go. This Master Yuan Hui was a member of the Huangji family and he knew that Zhuowen was a murderer. If this Master Yuan Hui was allowed to go back, the Huangji family would quickly find out that this matter was done by Zhuowen. With the Huangji family's influence and Zhuowen's shallow foundation, it was impossible for him to fight against a giant like the Huangji family. Thinking of this, Mu Qinshu sent a voice transmission to Kong Shi, asking him to kill this Master Yuan Hui. Kong Shi secretly glanced at Mu Qinshu behind him. At the same time, he coldly glanced at Zhuowen beside her. He knew that Mu Qinshue's request was most likely this despicable youth's suggestion. Thinking of this, Kong Shi's impression of this youth became even worse. At the same time, Kong Shi felt a headache coming on. Although he was an eternal overlord, he had just advanced not long ago. He was weaker than the average eternal overlord. Although Master Yuan Hui was not as strong as an eternal overlord, Kong Shi was only slightly stronger than this Master Yuan Hui. It would be very difficult for him to kill this Master Yuan Hui. Zhuowen also saw the difficulty in Kong Shi's eyes. He also sent a voice transmission, Brother Kong, you just need to delay this Master Yuan Hui. Leave the killing of this Master Yuan Hui to me. Kong Shi almost laughed his teeth out. Was there something wrong with this youth's head? He had just escaped danger because of him, but now he was saying that he could kill this Master Yuan Hui? Was this a joke? I say, there should be a limit to your jokes, right? Do you think I'll believe you if you say you can kill this person? Kong Shi couldn't help but mock. Zhuowen's face darkened. Kong Shi had actually directly stated his goal. Even the distant Master Yuan Hui had heard it. Fortunately, Master Yuan Hui didn't take Zhuowen's words seriously. He was mainly focused on Kong Shi. Zhuowen sighed softly. Fortunately, he hadn't exposed his Ho-E God arrows. If Master Yuan Hui knew he still had them, he would probably run away immediately. There was no way he would still be in a deadlock with Kong Shi. Yes, you just need to delay this Master Yuan Hui. Leave the killing of this Master Yuan Hui to me. Whether you believe it or not, your mission is to delay Master Yuan Hui. You don't need to ask about anything else, Zhuowen said calmly. Kong Shi's pupils shrank. He was extremely unhappy with Zhuowen's attitude. However, when he saw Mu Qinshue's signal, he could only snort coldly and reluctantly take action. Chapter 2692. Intent to retreat. Bang, bang, bang. Kong Shi took a step forward. Flames surged like a huge wave, and he became the master of the center of this huge wave of flames. He quickly rushed in front of Master Yuan Hui and rapidly threw out several punches. Each punch carried an extremely terrifying temperature, causing the starry sky to distort and collapse. Master Yuan Hui revealed a solemn expression. He pointed with both hands, and array flags flew out like stars, circling around Master Yuan Hui. Invisible ripples of energy undulated, resisting Kong Shi's violent attack. The two of them fought, shaking the heavens and earth. Their auras were like dragons, and everywhere they passed, everything turned into ruins. Even the surrounding starry sky laws seemed to have been shattered by the terrifying aftershocks of their battle. Zhuowen protected Mu Qinxue, Fire Plume, and the others. He controlled the space-time roulette to retreat to a safe distance before stopping. Let's escape quickly. Master Yuan Hui isn't an ordinary eternal-level divine array master, Fire Plume hurriedly said. As for Zhuo Wen's bold declaration of wanting to kill Grandmaster Yuan Hui, Huiyu had long since tossed it to the back of her mind. In her opinion, Zhuo Wen was just boasting. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "Later, Master Yuan Hui will be a disaster if we let him go. We must kill him here." Fire Plume and Steel Plume were shocked. They had always thought that Zhuowen was just joking. They didn't expect that this guy really intended to kill Master Yuan Hui. However, although they thought that Zhuowen's strength was extraordinary, the gap between him and an eternal overlord was too great. They didn't think that Zhuowen had the strength to kill an eternal overlord. One must know that even the terrifyingly powerful Kong Shi was only barely able to suppress Grandmaster Yuan Hui. It was simply wishful thinking for him to kill Grandmaster Yuan Hui. "Brother Zhuo, it's not that I don't believe you, but Master Yuan Hui is an eternal-level god formation master after all. He's not an ordinary cat or dog." "You?" Steel Plume frowned. Zhuowen smiled and did not answer Steel Plume. Instead, he took out Ho Yi's divine arrow. Everyone looked at the Ho Yi divine arrow Zhuowen had taken out in puzzlement. The Ho Yi divine arrow was an ordinary horn of some strange beast. The only thing that surprised them was that the bloodstains on the surface of the horn seemed to be unusual. Could it be that Zhuowen was planning to use this ordinary horn to kill Master Yuan Hui? Thinking of this, Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and the others shook their heads secretly. They felt that Zhuowen was a little too confident in the horn. Not far away, Kong Shi and Master Yuan Hui, who were originally fighting, naturally noticed Zhuowen's actions. When they realized that Zhuowen had only taken out a very ordinary horn, Master Yuan Hui sneered disdainfully. Kong Shi's eyes were filled with killing intent. In his opinion, Zhuowen was simply toying with him. This kid definitely can't kill Grandmaster Yuan Hui. Once this battle is over, I'll use this as an excuse to teach this kid who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth a good lesson. Kong Shi thought coldly in his heart. But soon, the expressions of Kong Shi and Master Yuan Hui, who were originally looking down on Lin Fan, changed. This was because they felt a terrifying killing intent that they had never felt before. This killing intent was simply too terrifying. Even at their current cultivation level, they still felt their hearts tremble. They could not help but tremble in fear. What a terrifying killing intent! This killing intent is coming from Zhuo Wen's side. Kong Shi's pupils shrank to the size of needles. After he focused his attention on Zhuowen behind him again, his attention was immediately attracted by the ordinary horn in Zhuowen's hand. This was because he realized that the originally ordinary horn was actually releasing a terrifying killing intent that made him tremble in fear. If the horn was just an ordinary horn before, then this horn was now a peerless monster with a terrifying power that was gradually awakening. Master Yuan Hui was also shocked. He looked at the blood-stained horn in Zhuowen's hand in disbelief, and his heart sank. Just the killing intent alone was enough to make him feel like he was facing the threat of death. Moreover, the killing intent was still increasing in strength. Clearly, if the killing intent reached its peak and shot out, it was very difficult for him to imagine whether he would be able to dodge it. "Let's go." After feeling such a terrifying killing intent, Grandmaster Yuan Hui no longer intended to continue entangling with Kong Shi. He knew that if this continued, then he might really be left behind here for good. "Kong Shi, keep Master Yuan Hui busy." At this moment, Zhuowen mobilized the energy within him. At the same time, He used the Devourer King's devouring ability to devour the energy of the special-grade origin crystals in the miniature world and feed it back to Hou Yi's arrow. Zhuowen smiled bitterly to himself as he watched the energy in the vein of special-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystals dwindle. Hou Yi's god arrow was truly a glutton. Just a single arrow could consume such a terrifying amount of energy. At the same time, Zhuowen sensed that Master Yuan Hui was about to flee, so he hurriedly warned Kong Shi. Hou Yi's arrow had just been released and it was still a little far from Master Yuan Hui. It would probably take some time for the killing intent to completely lock onto Master Yuan Hui. As long as the terrifying killing intent of Hou Yi's arrow locked onto Master Yuan Hui wouldn't be able to escape from Hou Yi's arrow no matter where he went. Kong Shi gave Zhuowen a deep look. He was also shocked in his heart. This kid actually had such a terrifying killing weapon. Now that he received Zhuowen's warning, he knew that this was a rare opportunity. Flames erupted from his body, and a huge phoenix phantom formed behind him. Kong Shi's strength increased by a lot. Master Yuan Hui couldn't help but curse when he saw Kong Shi erupt with all his strength to keep him busy. His fighting strength was originally slightly weaker than ordinary Eternal Lords. Now that Kong Shi had unleashed the power of his bloodline, the situation was extremely bad for Master Yuan Hui. I have to run. Master Yuan Hui had a premonition that if he waited for Zhuowen to release his Hou Yi divine arrow, it would be impossible for him to escape even if he wanted to. Therefore, now was the best time to escape. At the thought of this, Master Yuan Hui no longer held back. He took out the chessboard again and bit the tip of his tongue, spitting a mouthful of blood essence onto the chessboard. In an instant, the transparent chessboard was covered in blood. Countless lines shot out from the chessboard, and they were all dyed blood red. Whoosh, whoosh. Lines shot out and surrounded Master Yuan Hui, forming a powerful blood-red barrier around him. After the blood-colored boundary was formed, blood-colored chess pieces flew out from the chessboard. The blood-colored chess pieces were like ferocious beasts. They flew out one after another and surged toward Kong Shi. Chapter 2693. Killing Yuan Hui. Bang, bang, bang. Kong Shi's fists were like a storm. His body was surrounded by an incomparably large phantom of a phoenix. However, the more Kong Shi attacked, the more shocked he became. The blood-red barrier formed by Master Yuan Hui was too powerful. Moreover, there seemed to be no end to the blood-red chess pieces that flew out from it. They flew towards Kong Shi in an unending stream and bombarded him. Even though Kong Shi had unleashed all of his bloodline power, he still ended up running for his life under the endless attacks of the blood-red chess pieces. Explode! Master Yuan Hui's eyes shone with cold light and killing intent. Immediately, he formed a seal with both hands and spat out another mouthful of blood essence, sprinkling it on the barrier. Instantly, the blood-red barrier seemed to have been touched by some kind of taboo. It actually began to surge violently. Then, it began to compress continuously. As it continued to compress, the pressure within the barrier increased by hundreds and thousands. Kong Shi, who was within the barrier, was affected by the pressure and his movements became sluggish. He was deeply affected. This guy, Kong Shi's heart sank. He finally felt the terror of the barrier. He regretted not dodging when Master Yuan Hui used the barrier. If he had dodged, the barrier would be nothing to him. Boom, boom, boom. When the blood-red barrier was compressed to the extreme, it suddenly exploded. The terrifying explosive energy surged out and spread in all directions like rolling waves. Kong Shi, who was at the center of the explosion, was drowned by the explosion. At the moment when the blood-red barrier exploded, Master Yuan Hui looked at Zhuowen, who was still accumulating power not far away. His eyes flashed and his killing intent exploded. He was weighing the pros and cons. Now that Kong Shi was restrained by his barrier, should he escape or should he completely kill Zhuowen? Thinking of the terror of the blood-stained horn in Zhuowen's hand, Master Yuan Hui felt a surge of greed in his heart. Even he was tempted by such a powerful weapon. A ferocious creature like this will definitely need to accumulate power for a long time. This child is still accumulating power. As long as I kill him while he is accumulating power, all of his secrets will be mine. At that time, this ferocious creature will also become mine. In the end, Master Yuan Hui's greed overcame his rationality. He didn't understand how terrifying Ho Yi's divine arrow was, so he was hoping for a fluke. Whoosh! Master Yuan Hui made up his mind and immediately put it into action. He turned into a shadow and shot out, heading straight for Zhuowen. Brother Zhuo, be careful! Seeing Master Yuan Hui rush over, Fire Plume, Mu Chenxue, and the others all looked worried. Fire Plume even warned them. It's fine, Zhuowen said. His eyes shone brightly as he watched Master Yuan Hui get closer and closer. After Master Yuan Hui detonated the barrier and restrained Kong Shi, Zhuowen was somewhat worried that Master Yuan Hui would leave. After all, he hadn't finished accumulating power, but he was actually very close. If Master Yuan Hui had decisively left, Zhuowen knew that his accumulation of power this time would have been in vain, because the killing intent of the Ho Yi's divine arrow hadn't completely locked onto Master Yuan Hui. But now, Master Yuan Hui was actually planning to kill him. This was for the best. At least Zhuowen still had time to shoot the Ho Yi's divine arrow. Once it was shot, Master Yuan Hui would at least be seriously injured. When Master Yuan Hui was only a few feet away from Zhuowen, the killing intent of the Ho Yi's divine arrow rose to another level. Then, it surged out like a tidal wave and suddenly locked onto Master Yuan Hui. Master Yuan Hui's heart trembled. He could feel the terrifying killing intent pouring down on him, causing him to involuntarily feel fear. Although he didn't know what was going on, he could guess that it definitely wasn't anything good. However, he was too close to Zhuowen right now, so he simply ignored the terrifying feeling. Instead, he sent out several formation flags into his right hand and viciously smashed them onto Zhuowen's head. He wanted to kill this kid with a single strike. Master Yuan Hui sneered as he looked at Zhuowen. He wanted to see the despair on Zhuowen's face. But very soon, Master Yuan Hui felt that something was wrong. This was because he didn't see any fear or despair on Zhuowen's face. Zhuowen seemed very calm. There was actually a trace of mockery in his eyes that should have been filled with despair. This trace of mockery was like a nail that was hammered into Master Yuan Hui's heart, causing Master Yuan Hui to feel extremely displeased. You're about to die, yet you're still pretending to be calm. Master Yuan Hui mocked. Zhuowen smiled and didn't move. However, the mockery in his eyes became even stronger. Pucci! The instant Master Yuan Hui's attack was about to land on Zhuowen, Master Yuan Hui heard the sound of an arrow leaving the bowstring. Then, he felt a heart-wrenching pain from his chest. Then, Master Yuan Hui felt his body become light as a feather. Zhuowen, who was originally very close to him, was actually moving away from him. But very soon, he discovered that Zhuowen wasn't moving at all. Instead, he was retreating at a rapid pace. He lowered his head and looked at his chest. To his shock, he discovered that there was a huge wound on his chest. In this wound, a blood-stained horn had almost completely sunk into his chest. How is this possible? Just a little bit more, and I would have been able to kill this bastard. Master Yuan Hui only managed to utter these words before the terrifying power of Ho Yi's arrow tore his entire body apart. Zhuowen stood where he was, his face slightly pale. Looking at the torn Master Yuan Hui, he let out a soft sigh of relief. Thinking back to the sorry state he was in when he first fired Ho Yi's arrow, Zhuowen could be said to have improved tremendously. At the very least, he was able to stand firmly on the spot and not be sent flying by the terrifying recoil of Ho Yi's arrow. But even so, Zhuowen still felt weak, as if his body had been emptied. After taking out dozens of special-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystals and absorbing them all, Zhuowen finally felt the weakness in his body lessen significantly. Only then did he slowly walk over to where Master Yuan Hui had been torn apart. Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and even Mu Chenxue and the others all looked at this scene in shock. Mu Chenxue was pleasantly surprised, while Fire Plume and Steel Plume were horrified. Brother Zhuo is too terrifying. If he enters the Xianmi heavenly domain, it won't be difficult for him to become an overlord. Fire Plume came back to her senses and bitterly muttered to herself. Although she and Steel Plume had overestimated Zhuowen as much as possible, after this battle, she discovered that they had greatly underestimated Zhuowen. This kid had even killed an eternal grade divine array master. In the Xianmi heavenly domain, this kind of strength was enough to do whatever he wanted. At the same time, the two also thought of Huang Zhe's destined master bodyguard, Zoda. Chapter 2694. Kong Shi was horrified. After putting away the Ho-E divine arrow, Zhuowen searched for the scene where Master Yuan Hui was torn apart. Although he knew that with the power of the Ho-E divine arrow, Master Yuan Hui's spirit ring would definitely be shattered, he still felt lucky. After all, Master Yuan Hui was not an ordinary person. What's this? Soon, Zhuowen found a piece of golden platinum paper, as thin as a cicada's wing. He knew that this golden platinum paper should belong to Master Yuan Hui. Since it was not destroyed by the terrifying power of the Ho-E divine arrow, it could be seen that this golden platinum paper was not an ordinary thing. Zhuowen probed it with his spiritual sense, and found that there was something recorded on this golden platinum paper. After casually browsing through it, he showed a look of surprise. This was because the golden platinum paper recorded a kind of array Dao inheritance. It was said that this array Dao inheritance could help a divine array master cultivate to the third step of Dao confirmation. Grandmaster Yuan Hui obtained this golden platinum paper, which was why his attainments in the Tao of arrays improved so quickly. In less than 1,000 years, he became an eternal level array Tao master and was hired by the Huangji family as a royal array Tao master. Zhuowen had just become a heavenly Tao divine array master, so the inheritance in this golden platinum paper was very important to him. Where's Master Yuan Hui? Did he escape? After putting away the golden platinum paper, Kong Shi walked out of the exploded boundary in a sorry state. The self-destruction of Grandmaster Yuan Hui's blood-colored barrier was simply too powerful. Even though Kong Shi had unleashed all of his bloodline power, he had still sustained extremely serious injuries. Now that Kong Shi barely survived the explosion and did not see Master Yuan Hui, he could not help but ask curiously. Although Kong Shi asked this question, his tone was extremely tough. Obviously, he thought that Master Yuan Hui must have escaped. Master Yuan Hui was shot to death by me, Zhuowen said coldly. Kong Shi's pupils shrank, but he fell into a rare silence. Although he didn't believe Zhuowen's words, he calmed down and sensed for a moment. He really did feel that Master Yuan Hui's aura had completely disappeared and was replaced by a terrifying killing aura. Kong Si was no stranger to this murderous aura. It was the aura of the blood-stained horn that Zhuowen had taken out earlier. He knew that Master Yuan Hui must have been killed by the blood-stained horn. Kong Shi felt shocked. He couldn't imagine what the blood-stained horn was, and how it could kill an eternal level array formation master like Master Yuan Hui with a single arrow. If Zhuowen shot the same arrow at him, would he be able to block it? Zhuowen ignored the absent-minded Kong Shi and landed on the space-time roulette. He looked at Kong Shi and said, "Since you are from the Phoenix people, you should be from the primitive heavenly realm, right? How did you enter the 8 heavens?" Kong Shi came back to his senses, looked at Zhuowen, and said strangely, "Don't you know that the passage between the primitive heavenly realm and the 8 heavens has been opened?" Zhuowen's pupils shrank and he said, "Who broke it? Was it an almighty of the primitive heavenly realm?" Zhuowen's heart sank. He didn't expect the seal of the primitive heavenly realm to be broken so quickly. The 8 heavens would no longer have peace. In addition, Dong Wang Tai was eyeing the 8 heavens covetously. The 8 heavens would soon face an unprecedented disaster. Although Zhuowen wanted to help the 8 heavens, he also knew that his strength was limited. If he went to the 8 heavens now, he would be courting death. All he could do now was to protect his family, friends, and lovers. Kong Shi shook his head. The seal of your 8 great heavens is extremely powerful. It is basically impossible to break it from the other side of the great desolate heaven realm. It was an existence from your 8 great heavens that opened the seal. As for who it was, I am not sure. Zhuowen gnashed his teeth in anger. He had already guessed who it was. It must be that green-haired mummy. After tricking him in the land of origin, it was impossible for this mummy to go to the Xianmi heavenly realm. After all, the Xianmi heavenly realm was the world of the human race. That green-haired mummy was obviously not a human. Going to the Xianmi heavenly realm was just courting death. Therefore, if the green-haired mummy wanted to leave the 8 heavens, it would definitely go to the primitive heavenly realm, which accommodated all races. However, what Zhuowen didn't expect was that the green-haired mummy was so ruthless. Not only did it release the almighty of the demon race, Dong Wang Tai, but it also broke the seal of the primitive heavenly realm. It was a complete mess. However, Zhuowen also felt a little helpless. The green-haired mummy's body was extremely powerful. Even if Zhuowen had the 3-star Pangu sacred body, he didn't have the confidence to fight it head-on. Moreover, the green-haired mummy was able to break the seal of the primitive heavenly realm. It could be seen that this fellow relied on the energy of the demon pearl to recover a lot of its strength. Taking a step back, the green-haired mummy had already gone to the primitive heavenly realm. Although Zhuowen didn't like the green-haired mummy, he knew that he couldn't find this fellow to take revenge on. If Chen Shui goes to the Phoenix people with you, how will the Phoenix people treat Chen Shui? Zhuowen asked coldly. Kong Shi coldly snorted and said, Lady Chen Shui's bloodline is extremely powerful. It even resonated with the Phoenix people's ancestral land. You have to know that those who can resonate with the ancestral land are all earth-shattering super powerhouses in the history of the Phoenix people. Lady Chen Shui's future is limitless. If she goes to the Phoenix people, she will have the chance to become our clan's saintess. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. He could see that Kong Shi was indeed very respectful and submissive to Mu Chenxue. It seemed that the Phoenix bloodline in Mu Chenxue's body was indeed not ordinary. After Kong Shi finished speaking, he ignored Zhuowen and knelt on one knee in front of Mu Chenxue. He said, Lady Chen Shui, Kong Shi is here to bring you back. You also know that with your powerful bloodline, it's too dangerous outside. Under the premise that you're not strong enough, it's best for you to come back with me. Mu Chenxue originally wanted to go to the Phoenix people with Kong Shi. She also felt that her strength was indeed a little weak. Especially after seeing Zhuowen's powerful battle strength, Mu Chenxue was even more determined to become stronger. She did not want to be a burden to Zhuowen in the future. She wanted to help Zhuowen and walk side by side with him. Mu Chenxue nodded in agreement. Kong Shi's heart was filled with joy. Husband, you've offended the Huangji family and Impermanence Palace. Do you want to go to the great desolate realm with me? Since the Phoenix people are a large clan in the great desolate realm, they will definitely protect you. Mu Chenxue looked at Zhuowen with a worried gaze as she spoke. Zhuowen shook his head and said, Chen Shui, you should understand my personality. I'm not the kind of person who likes to rely on others. Even if it's my own woman, I won't allow it. Mu Chenxue revealed a faint smile as she carefully looked at Zhuowen. She understood Zhuowen better than anyone else. The reason why she said this was for Kong Shi to hear. She wanted Kong Shi to know that this youth in front of him had a very high position in Mu Chenxue's heart. As expected, Kong Shi's expression was not good and he was also feeling a little distressed. If those old fellows in the clan knew that the Phoenix people's saintess already had a Dao companion, wouldn't they go crazy from anger? Chapter 2695. Three clan elders Mu Chinshue chatted with Zhuowen for a while, but her beautiful eyes were filled with reluctance. Zhuowen was the same, but he always respected his wife's decision and would not make a decision for Chen Shui. Sir Chen Shui, you should go. The passage to the great desolate realm has already been opened, and there are more and more life forms from the great desolate realm entering the 8 heavens. I'm afraid we'll meet experts from other clans, Kong Shi said. At the same time, his communication jade talisman lit up with a dazzling light. Kong Shi looked it over and revealed a look of pleasant surprise. Kong Shi, what is it? Mu Chinshue saw Kong Shi reveal a look of pleasant surprise, so she couldn't help asking this. Kong Shi said in a pleasantly surprised voice, Sir Chen Shui, the Phoenix People's 3rd clan elder, has personally brought elites to welcome you. He knows that you're returning to the Phoenix People and is very excited, so he's urging me to bring you over. Although Mu Chinshue did not know who the 3rd clan elder was, seeing Kong Shi reveal a look of awe when he mentioned the 3rd clan elder, she knew that the 3rd clan elder was an important person of the Phoenix People. Husband, I should go. Mu Chinshue held Zhuowen's hand and said with a sigh. Zhuowen gave a sigh in his heart. He let go of Mu Chinshue's jade-like hand and said with a smile, Chen Shui, go. Remember to take care of yourself when you go there. Also, if anyone bullies you and I find out, I will beat them up until their parents can't recognize them. Mu Chinshue gave a laugh, but her beautiful eyes were filled with emotions. She gently hugged Zhuowen and kissed Zhuowen's forehead before leaving like a butterfly. Zhuowen looked at the beautiful figure that was taken away by Kong Shi and felt a sense of loss in his heart. However, he quickly calmed down. I'll send you to Heavenly Moat, we'll part ways there. Zhuowen turned to look at Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and Tong Chimei as he spoke with a smile. The 3 of them naturally did not have any objections and did not ask why Zhuowen was staying. In the cold and dark space, a terrifying stream of fire shot out. Everywhere it passed, everything was incinerated into nothingness. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that there were actually more than 10 figures floating within the flaming light. The auras of these dozen figures were extremely vast and terrifying. At this moment, there were already quite a number of living beings from the desolation heaven within the 8 heavens. These creatures of the great desolate heaven realm were like evil spirit. Wherever they passed, they would cause inhumane slaughter and destruction. When the flaming light swept past, the creatures of the prehistoric heavenly realm all trembled and subconsciously dodged the flaming light that cut through the starry sky. This aura. Could it be a powerhouse from the Phoenix People? The aura standing at the front is so strong. I think I've seen him somewhere before. Oh right, that's the 3rd elder of the Phoenix People. He has a high position and authority. Why did he come to the 8 heavens? Even the 3 elders have been mobilized. Could it be that something major has happened in the 8 heavens? Some of the creatures of the great desolate heaven realm recognized the flaming light, and their eyes revealed looks of fear and reverence. The Phoenix People were deeply rooted in the great desolate heaven realm. They were one of the top 10 races and were extremely powerful. The 3 clan elders were even more so the powerful experts of the older generation of the Phoenix People. They would not easily come out, but now that they had come to the 8 heavens, many of the creatures of the great desolate heaven realm were puzzled. At the front of the flaming light was an old man wearing a fiery red robe. His eyes were like fire, and he held a flaming scepter in his hand. His body unconsciously exuded a powerful and dignified aura. This was the 3rd elder of the Phoenix People. He was a true existence at the level of an old monster. The 3 clan elders' eyes narrowed as they revealed a look of pleasant surprise. He looked to the front, where a streak of fiery light was quickly flying over and finally stopping in front of the 3 clan elders. Kong Shi greets the 3 clan elders. Kong Shi, who was wearing a flaming armor, knelt on one knee on the ground and bowed respectfully to the 3 clan elders. The 3 clan elders nodded slightly, but their eyes fell on the slim and graceful woman behind Kong Shi. He could clearly feel that the woman's bloodline was extremely powerful. It was far more powerful than all the juniors of the Phoenix people he had seen before. He knew that the one who had resonated with the ancestral land of the Phoenix people should be this beautiful woman in front of him. "Little girl, what's your name?" The three clan elders' stern eyes gradually softened as he looked at the woman behind Kong Shi and asked gently. Kong Shi heard the three clan elders' voice become so gentle. He knew that the three clan elders were very satisfied with Mu Chenxue, who he had brought with him. One had to know that the three clan elders did not smile easily. However, they showed such a gentle smile to Mu Chenxue, who they had just met for the first time. It was obvious that the three clan elders valued Mu Chenxue greatly. At the same time, Kong Shi was also very happy. He knew that he had done a great service to the Phoenix people by finding Mu Chenxue. When he returned to the Phoenix people, he would definitely be rewarded generously. Mu Chenxue cupped her fists and said in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing, "Senior, my name is Mu Chenxue." The three clan elders nodded and said indifferently, "You have a powerful Phoenix bloodline, which should be related to fire. However, your name has the word snow in it. This name is not good. From now on, you will be called Mu Chenyan." Mu Chenxue frowned slightly and said calmly, "This name was given to me by my mother. I will not change my name easily. If Senior thinks that my name is not good, you can refuse to let me join the Phoenix people." Kong Shi's heart trembled when he heard this. Previously, he had repeatedly instructed that he was meeting the three clan elders. Among the Phoenix people, they were one of the three most powerful existences. He could not be careless. Now, Mu Chenxue actually contradicted the three clan elders in front of them for the sake of a name. Was she courting death? Even the dozen or so Phoenix tribe powerhouses behind the three clan elders began to discuss among themselves. They felt that this woman did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. The three clan elders narrowed their eyes and looked deeply at Mu Chenxue. In the end, they nodded and said, "All right. Since this is your decision, then you don't have to change your name." Kong Shi looked at the three clan elders in surprise. He did not expect the three clan elders to be so good-tempered now. They actually agreed to Mu Chenxue's request so easily. However, he also knew that this did not mean that the three clan elders' temper had improved. This was entirely because the Phoenix bloodline in Mu Chenxue's body was too powerful. The three clan elders had no choice but to treat her seriously. "Child, come here for a moment. Let me test your bloodline." The three clan elders waved their hands. Mu Chenxue hesitated for a moment, but still came to the three clan elders' side. The three clan elders stretched out their withered palms, then formed sword fingers and gently tapped the space between Mu Chenxue's eyebrows. Instantly, a phoenix symbol appeared between Mu Chenxue's eyebrows. Moreover, this phoenix symbol even let out a clear phoenix cry that pierced through gold and cracked stone, reaching the 9 heavens. Chapter 2696. 99 Phoenix body. The blazing temperature actually dispersed the flaming light around the three clan elders and the others. Other than the three clan elders, the dozen or so people behind them all involuntarily retreated as they looked at the beautiful woman in front of the three clan elders in shock. At this moment, Mu Chenxue was surrounded by countless flames and magma. The terrifying magma actually formed phoenix phantoms one after another, and a total of 99 phoenix phantoms appeared above Mu Chenxue's head. The 99 phoenix phantoms let out overlapping phoenix cries. That sound actually resounded through the entire 8 heavenly realms, attracting the attention of countless living beings. It's actually the 99 Phoenix body. It seems like the heavens are blessing us Phoenix people. After countless years, a second person with the 99 Phoenix body has actually appeared. The three clan elders laughed loudly, their voices filled with excitement. The dozen or so experts brought by the 3 clan elders all bowed and kowtowed as they looked at the 99 phoenix phantoms that had appeared behind Mu Chun Shui in the starry sky, their eyes filled with reverence. The 99 phoenix body was a legendary physique among the phoenix people. It was said that the ancestors of the phoenix people possessed the 99 phoenix body and were invincible throughout the world. In the end, they created one of the 10 great races, the Phoenix people. Now that the 99 Phoenix body had appeared among the Phoenix people, they knew that the Phoenix people would regain the glory of their ancestors in the future. They might even be able to compete with the Witch clan that ruled the great desolate heaven realm. Right now, these Phoenix people did not look down on Mu Qinshui at all. Rather, they were filled with fanatical reverence. They were very clear that the woman in front of them was the future hope of the Phoenix people. Chen Shui. From today onwards, you are the holy maiden of the Phoenix people. Your status is only below the 3 clan elders. Ha ha. The 3 clan elders laughed as they looked at Mu Qinshui in front of them with great satisfaction. The 99 Phoenix body. The 3 clan elders couldn't help but be excited. As long as Mu Qinshui grew up, it would only be a matter of time before she surpassed the 3 clan elders of their clan. Then, it would be even easier for her to reach the 3rd step of the Tao confirming realm. Although Mu Qinshui was puzzled, she knew that her body constitution was special and important to the Phoenix people. However, this was exactly what she wanted. She joined the Phoenix people in order to become stronger. Now that she had such a strong physique, it was naturally the best for her. Chen Shui, let's go back to the Phoenix people, the 3 clan elders said while laughing. Mu Qinshui nodded. Then, the 3 elders waved their sleeves, and a stream of flame wrapped around Mu Qinshui. Then, they brought the group of people and left the place in an instant. Mu Qinshui looked at the dozen or so people in the flaming light, but she didn't see Kong Shi. She asked in surprise, Elder, where is Kong Shi? The 3 clan elders said with a smile, Kong Shi. He came to the 8 heavens on a mission. He hasn't finished his mission yet, so he's staying in the 8 heavens for now. Mu Qinshui nodded. She didn't think too much about it, but she didn't see the sinister look in the 3 clan elders' eyes. Just now, after he guided the 99 Phoenix body out of Mu Qinshui's body, he discovered that Mu Qinshui was no longer a virgin. This made the 3 clan elders very angry. Mu Qinshui was now the Phoenix people's sacred maiden. She should have been as pure as ice, but someone had taken her virginity. The 3 clan elders couldn't accept this. However, the 3 clan elders didn't say anything to Mu Qinshui, nor did they get angry at Mu Qinshui. He knew that Mu Qinshui wasn't born in the Phoenix people. To be honest, the Phoenix people were the ones who had let Mu Qinshui down. This matter couldn't be blamed on Mu Qinshui. Therefore, he immediately transmitted his voice to Kong Shi. He wanted to ask if Kong Shi knew if Mu Qinshui had a Tao companion. If she did, the 3 clan elders felt that Mu Qinshui's Tao companion deserved to die. After all, Mu Qinshui was the Phoenix people's sacred maiden. If others found out that the dignified Phoenix people's sacred maiden had a Tao companion, it would be a humiliation to the Phoenix people. Especially when the 3 clan elders heard that Mu Qinshui's Tao companion was a piece of trash in the life and death boundary. This made the 3 clan elders even more disinterested in Mu Qinshui's Tao companion. So, he casually ordered Kong Shi to kill Zhuowen before returning to the Phoenix people. Kong Shi watched as the flames disappeared into the distance. He licked his lips with his scarlet tongue and said with a cold laugh, "That little bastard Zhuowen, what ability did he have to dare become Lady Chen Shui's Tao companion? This kind of person should go to hell." Furthermore, the blood-stained horn on this bastard's body is also an incredible treasure. If I can obtain that treasure, I'm afraid that my strength will rise to another level. My status may even be on par with the 3 great clan elders. Kong Shi laughed as he flew into the starry sky. In fact, even if the 3 clan elders hadn't noticed that Mu Qinshui wasn't a virgin, Kong Shi would have told them about Zhuowen's existence. Of course, Kong Shi did not specifically mention that Zhuowen possessed a peerless ominous object and that Zhuowen relied on this peerless ominous object to kill an eternal rank god array master. Because he had taken a fancy to that peerless monster. Once the three clan elders knew about it, Kong Shi knew that it would be impossible for him to take that treasure for himself. Of course, Kong Shi also knew how terrifying that peerless monster was. If Zhuowen had shot that arrow, he would have died without a doubt. However, in the battle with Master Yuan Hui, he had seen through the limitations of Zhuowen's use of that peerless monster. Because this kid needed some time to accumulate power. Without that time, this kid wouldn't have been able to shoot that arrow. As long as he acted decisively and killed that little bastard without giving him a chance to shoot that arrow, he knew that he would definitely be able to kill that little bastard. Zhuowen stopped in front of a huge natural moat. Looking at this huge and dangerous place that was completely different from the surrounding starry sky, his heart was filled with shock. Is this the natural moat? Zhuowen looked at the natural moat in front of him in shock and couldn't help muttering to himself. Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and Tong Chimei walked down from the spacetime roulette. Fire Plume said softly, "Yes, this is the natural moat. Not only is there a natural and terrifying gravity here, but there are also many terrifying strange beasts. Because these strange beasts live in the harsh environment of the natural moat, their strength is monstrous. With the help of the natural moat's terrain, they are like fish in water. For cultivators crossing the natural moat, these strange beasts are the most troublesome obstacles." Zhuowen nodded. Just from the periphery of the natural moat, Zhuowen could feel that this natural moat was unusual and terrifying. "Brother Zhuo, are you really not going to come with us to Xianmi Heavenly Domain now?" Fire Plume tried to persuade him. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "I have made up my mind. I do have some things that I need to do, so I don't plan to go to Xianmi Heavenly Domain now. Once I'm done, I will go to Xianmi Heavenly Domain and pay a visit to Purple Red Chamber. As for Junior Sister Chimei, I'll leave it to you." Fire Plume said solemnly, "Don't worry, our Purple Red Chamber will not mistreat Junior Sister Chimei. Also, this is the route map of Purple Red Chamber. If you really come to Xianmi Heavenly Domain, you can follow this route to Purple Red Chamber. We will definitely treat you well." "Thank you." Zhuowen put away the route map and cupped his fist. His voice was filled with gratitude. Chapter 2697. Murderous Intent. The world in the Devourer King's body is beginning to take shape. Although it's a little far from the macro world, it still contains certain rules. I'll move the Ryuka people into my internal world first. Zhuowen muttered to himself. He then controlled the spacetime roulette and moved all the Ryuka people in the various spacetimes into his internal world. After doing all this, Zhuowen took out the 3 spacetime keys. I can't sense the location of the spacetime temple in the extraterritorial starry sky. It seems that I'll have to make a trip back to the 8 heavens. Zhuowen was about to combine the 3 spacetime keys and teleport into the spacetime temple when he realized that it didn't work in the extraterritorial starry sky. He knew that it was because he was in the extraterritorial starry sky. When Zhuowen arrived at the Brahma domain in the spacetime roulette and was about to take out the 3 spacetime keys again, he felt a strong sense of danger. Then, Zhuowen threw a punch behind him without hesitation. The power of the 3 stars Panga's sacred body poured out in torrent. Puff! Zhuowen could only feel a terrifying heat radiating from his fist. Soon after, he was sent flying by the terrifying force behind him. His right hand was fractured by the terrifying force. The instant Zhuowen was sent flying, Zhuowen immediately sensed the power pursuing him. It caught up to him once again. Clearly, it planned to completely destroy him in one go. Zhuowen's heart sank. He felt that the power was very familiar. Profound Creation Mysterious Light. Zhuowen used the Profound Creation Mysterious Light without hesitation. The profound creation mysterious light was different from the sky-splitting blade and the Hong Meng Wuji. It focused on defense and had a terrifying defensive power. The creation mysterious light wrapped around Zhuowen's body and turned into a strong defense. Then, the force arrived as expected and blasted on Zhuowen's body. The terrifying force caused Zhuowen to groan. Fortunately, he managed to block the second wave of attack. Zhuowen reacted very quickly. After dodging the second wave of attacks, he immediately retreated like a flying shuttle, fleeing far away as he looked at the muscular man in the flame armor. Kong Shi? Zhuowen's heart sank. The moment this person attacked him, he had already guessed that it was Kong Shi. He couldn't understand why Kong Shi would attack him. He could tell that Kong Shi's attack was definitely a killing move. If Zhuowen had not used the mysterious light of creation in time, he would have been blasted into pieces even though his Pangu sacred body was very strong. After all, Kong Shi was an eternal overlord. He was so strong that Zhuowen was no match for him. It could be said that apart from the Hou-Yi divine arrow, Zhuowen had nothing that could threaten an eternal overlord like Kong Shi. Kong Shi looked at Zhuowen with some surprise. He didn't expect that the latter would only be injured under his sneak attack and not die. It seemed that this person was really not simple. This made Kong Shi want to kill Zhuowen even more. Why? Zhuowen asked coldly. He didn't seem to have a life-and-death feud with Kong Shi. Kong Shi had no reason to kill him. Kong Shi grinned and said, "Because you are Lord Chen Shui's cultivation companion. The three elders have officially appointed Lord Chen Shui as the saintess of the Phoenix people. Her status is high and the saintess is not allowed to have a cultivation companion. Therefore, you must die." "You mean to say that the three elders gave the order to kill me?" Zhuowen's eyes were cold. Zhuowen had never seen the three elders, but this old man actually gave the order to kill him. This made Zhuowen burn with anger. "You can say that. Of course, part of it is because of me. You should hand over that blood-stained horn. As long as you are satisfied, why can't I spare your dog life?" Kong Shi said arrogantly. Zhuowen sneered and said, "So that's your main reason for killing me? Looking at your expression, you didn't tell the three elders about this thing on me." Zhuowen quickly figured out the connection. It was the three elders who gave the order to kill him, but it should also be Kong Shi's instigation. Moreover, Kong Shi definitely didn't tell anyone about the Hou-Yi divine arrow. Otherwise, the three elders wouldn't have just sent Kong Shi to kill him. They would have come in person. After all, his cultivation wasn't high, but he could kill an eternal overlord with the Hou-Yi divine arrow. Anyone who wasn't a fool could see that the Hou-Yi divine arrow was extraordinary. Thinking of this, Zhuowen also knew that it was a wrong decision to reveal the Hou-Yi divine arrow in front of Kong Shi. The power of the Hou-Yi divine arrow was too terrifying, and his strength wasn't particularly strong. It was inevitable that Kong Shi would covet it. If he used the Hou-Yi divine arrow again in the future, he would have to be careful. Otherwise, if he encountered something like today, it would be really bad. Sure enough, after hearing Zhuowen's words, Kong Shi's eyes turned cold and said, "You're about to die, yet you still have the heart to ridicule me. You're simply courting death." Boom! Kong Shi said, taking a step forward and stretching out his right hand. Intense flame energy manifested into an extremely terrifying flaming palm that tore through the starry sky like an angry dragon, rushing towards Zhuowen. Kong Shi followed closely behind, his hands blazing with flames, ready to strike. Obviously, he was going all out this time, intending to kill. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. Kong Shi's attack was too terrifying, and he knew that with his current cultivation, he couldn't take it head-on. Although he could still shoot the Hou-Yi divine arrow, it needed time to accumulate power. Kong Shi obviously knew the weakness of the Hou-Yi divine arrow, so he attacked decisively, not giving Zhuowen any time to accumulate power. Zhuowen was also very decisive. He kept retreating, and at the same time, He immediately took out 3 spacetime keys and combined them without hesitation. Suddenly, the 3 spacetime keys combined and emitted a strong light. It was a light that was close to spacetime, and it was extremely strange. Then, a huge spacetime vortex appeared around Zhuowen. Zhuowen stepped into the spacetime vortex, and his figure quickly disappeared. Then, the spacetime vortex quickly closed. Kong Shi I Zhuowen will remember today's grudge. The next time I see you, I'll kill you. After the spacetime vortex closed, Zhuowen's cold voice sounded, shaking heaven and earth. Kong Shi stopped and looked at the spacetime vortex that had disappeared. He was so angry that his teeth itched. He didn't expect Zhuowen to have such a trump card. At the same time, Kong Shi was also a little worried. Zhuowen was very talented, and he had the terrifying Ho-E Divine Arrow. If they really met again, Kong Shi didn't know if he would have the strength to kill this kid. I'll wait here. Since this kid disappeared from here, maybe he'll come back here the next time he comes out. Chapter 2698. The Space-Time Temple. Zhuowen felt the world spin as if the space-time around him was constantly twisting, causing his entire body to feel pain and tension. After he gradually adapted to the feeling of space-time flying, he immediately mobilized the space-time law he had comprehended. Only then was he barely able to resist the tearing force of space-time around him. Zhuowen looked around and discovered that the surroundings were gray and hazy. Within this gray haze, there were even thin lines of light. They were like flying space-time that rapidly streaked past Zhuowen's eyes. This is the space where the space-time temple is located? Zhuowen stopped in place and observed his surroundings. He knew that this should be the space-time temple's space, but he didn't see it. Zhuowen's entire body was suffused with the space-time law. Then, he transformed into a stream of light that shot forward. At the same time, his powerful divine sense spread out and began to investigate his surroundings. It had to be said that Zhuowen's divine sense was indeed much more powerful than an ordinary cultivator's. In the space-time temple's space, the space-time law was extremely vast, and the suppression on the divine sense was even more terrifying. If it was an ordinary cultivator, their divine sense would probably only be able to extend a few meters or even a few dozen meters. However, Zhuowen's divine sense could extend over 1,000 meters. With such a powerful divine sense, Zhuowen could completely avoid the dangers and traps ahead of him. Someone has trespassed into the space-time domain. Kill him! Suddenly, after flying for several hours, Zhuowen discovered a group of beast soldiers a few thousand meters ahead of him. There were about 50 of them. All of them were covered in scales and had huge hammer-like tails. The moment Zhuowen discovered this group of beast soldiers, the leader of this group of beast soldiers also discovered Zhuowen. Thus, it whistled towards Zhuowen, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws in an attempt to kill Zhuowen. Zhuowen revealed a strange expression as he gazed at this group of soldiers. Because he noticed that all of them were actually experts at the extremes of life and death, and the leader of the soldiers was even a half-step Heaven Tao Lord. If such a team was placed in the 8 heavens, it would be an invincible existence. It was more than enough to attack any one of the 8 heavens. The beast soldiers were very fast, and all of them seemed to have comprehended the space-time law. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Zhuowen. Despicable humans, entering the space-time domain is simply courting death. The leader of the soldiers let out a ferocious laugh, his sharp teeth reflecting a chilling cold light. Holding the long spear in his hand, he mercilessly stabbed towards Zhuowen's vital points. Zhuowen laughed coldly in his heart. This leader was merely a quasi-Heaven Tao Lord, yet he was simply courting death by acting so arrogantly before Zhuowen. Zhuowen clenched his right fist and casually punched out, smashing the tip of the leader's long spear. The leader of the soldiers was shocked to discover that the tip of the spear had been directly smashed apart. A terrifying force spread out from the tip of the spear, and then the entire spear curled up. Poochie! The moment the fist smashed the long spear, It also landed on the beast soldier leader's chest under its horrified gaze. A terrifying force exploded. The beast soldier leader let out a blood-curdling scream as it was blown to smithereens. It couldn't be any more dead than this. Leader! Many of the soldiers were shocked when they saw their leader being killed with a single punch, and they couldn't help but cry out in alarm. But soon they were enraged. How could they tolerate the death of their leader in front of their eyes? They disregarded their own lives and surrounded Zhuowen, wanting to kill this human. Unfortunately, this human was too abnormal. He only casually punched out, and every punch was able to completely kill a soldier. Not long after, the entire beast army was slaughtered by Zhuowen. Every single one of them was killed. Of course, Zhuowen left one alive. This was also a soldier, but this soldier was scared out of his wit. When Zhuowen was constantly killing the soldiers, this soldier hid in fear and wanted to escape. However, he was caught by Zhuowen. Do you know where the temporal temple is? Zhuowen asked indifferently as he held the soldier who was scared out of his wits. The soldier was trembling, and he had already thrown away the long spear in his hand. He looked at the human in front of him in horror, and he was so scared that he couldn't speak. I'm asking you a question. Do you want to die? Zhuowen said with a frown. No. I'm telling you, the temporal temple is located in the deepest part of the temporal domain. It's the most mysterious place in the temporal domain, and it's the cave of Lord Yingxi. The soldier was so scared that he didn't dare to hide anything and told him everything about the temporal temple. After hearing this, Zhuowen's expression became serious. From this soldier, he learned that there were many soldier squads in the temporal domain. They were all servants that Yingxi had subdued in the early years, and each of them was very strong. In particular, there were 3 soldier squads that were the most terrifying. The weakest of the soldiers was a heavenly Tao master, and the leader was a primordial chaos master. Each of these 3 soldier squads could easily kill a primordial chaos master and restrain a heaven's mandate master. It was said that these 3 soldier squads were guarding the outermost area of the temporal temple, and they resisted any outsiders who wanted to enter. Yingxi was naturally the master of the temporal temple. Zhuowen estimated that Yingxi's strength should be around the 2nd step of the Tao confirming realm, but he didn't know what realm he was at. However, he was sure of one thing, and that was that the master of the temporal temple was definitely seriously injured and had less than 10% of his strength left. Even if Yingxi was a 2nd step Tao confirming realm expert, his strength was not as strong as before. Zhuowen might not be afraid of such an existence. The soldier also mentioned that because Yingxi's life was unknown, it seemed that the soldier squads here had begun to covet the things in the temporal temple. If someone entered here with 3 temporal keys, they would definitely be fought over. This was also the reason why these soldier squads were so excited when they saw Zhuowen. Zhuowen let the soldier go and continued to move forward. Although he was careful, he still encountered many soldier squads along the way. However, Zhuowen was too strong, and the soldier squads he encountered along the way were easily defeated and killed by Zhuowen. Gradually, because Zhuowen's movements were too loud, he completely attracted the attention of many soldier squads in the temporal domain. Therefore, soldier squads gathered one after another, determined to kill Zhuowen. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was too brave. With the Pangu's sacred body, he was not afraid of a group battle at all. No matter how many soldier squads came, Zhuowen basically killed them all. Many soldier squads were frightened and terrified. For a time, the soldiers in the temporal domain were in a panic. After seeing Zhuowen's terrifying strength, many soldier squads did not dare to come forward to kill Zhuowen. In the depths of the temporal domain, a magnificent palace stood, surrounded by powerful temporal law. Chapter 2699. The 3 major beast soldiers. At the front of the palace stood 3 stone statues of beast soldiers. Each stone statue was extremely majestic and lifelike. In front of each of the 3 beast soldiers stood a leader. The leader on the right held the green dragon crescent blade and wore a green robe. Although he had a human body, he stood with a green dragon head. The leader in the middle was a charming woman wearing a loose chong sam. Although her expression looked a little stiff, she still had a soul-stirring charm. The strange thing was that this woman had 9 furry tails behind her. She should be a 9-tailed fox. The leader on the left was a giant toad. However, this toad stood up and held a sharp sword that was about to be unsheathed. This appearance looked quite strange. Crack! Suddenly, the stone statues of the 3 leaders made a cracking sound. Then, the stones on the surface of the 3 leaders, which were supposed to be stone statues, peeled off one by one, revealing their real bodies. It seems that someone has collected all 3 space-time keys. The dragon-headed person holding the green dragon crescent blade said lightly. Hee hee, you really made us wait for a long time. It wasn't easy for us to enter the space-time domain. After searching for countless years, we finally found the space-time temple. Unfortunately, without the space-time key, we couldn't enter. Today, someone finally gathered the space-time key and sent it to us. The 9-tailed fox pursed her lips and smiled. The 9 furry tails behind her swayed gently with a soul-stirring beauty. Croak! We have an agreement. After obtaining the space-time key, the 3 of us will enter the space-time temple together. If anyone dares to break the agreement, they will be struck by lightning, the toad said coldly. Among the 3 of them, Toad was the least scheming. He also knew that 9-tailed fox and the dragon-headed man were both very meticulous. If he were to compete with them in terms of scheming, he would simply be looking for trouble. Therefore, he had already made things clear before this. Don't worry, Toad. Since we have made an agreement, we will naturally fulfill it, the 9-tailed fox said with a charming smile. The toad snorted and immediately stomped his foot. Suddenly, the 50 stone statues behind him cracked and 50 beast soldiers appeared. These 50 beast soldiers all knelt on one knee to show their respect and submission to the toad. That human is very fast. He's already here. The 9-tailed fox giggled. With a light tap of her jade-like hand, the 50 beast soldiers behind her also broke out of their shells. The dragon-headed person was not careless. Naturally, he also awakened the beast soldiers that belonged to him. When the 3 beast soldiers were completely awakened, a streak of light shot over and stopped not far from the temporal temple. Zhuowen raised his head and looked at the faintly discernible temple in the mist. A look of joy appeared in his eyes. He knew that the temple in front of him should be the space-time temple that he had been searching for. But soon, his attention was attracted by the 3 beast soldiers in front of the temple. In particular, the 3 leaders in front of the 3 beast soldiers all had vast auras. They were all peak Hunyuan Lord, and their strength couldn't be underestimated. Are you the guardians of the temporal temple? Zhuowen asked indifferently. The 9-tailed fox blinked her right eye and giggled. Cute little brother, you may have misunderstood. We are not the guardians of the temple. We want to enter the temple. If little brother is willing to hand over the space-time temple, we will be very grateful and won't make things difficult for you. The dragon-headed person and the toad both remained calm and looked at Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen's aura was only at the extreme realm of life and death, they knew about the commotion he had caused in front of them and knew that he was not weak. However, the 3 of them were not afraid of him. After all, they were all peak Hunyuan Lord and could be considered as real experts. No matter how strong Zhuowen was, how could he be stronger than the 3 of them? Therefore, they wanted Zhuowen to take the initiative to hand over the 3 temporal keys. Zhuowen sneered and ignored the 9-tailed fox's words. Instead, he said indifferently, "If you don't want to die, you'd better get out of the way. Otherwise, I won't be merciful." The 9-tailed fox was stunned. She looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. She had thought of many possibilities, but most of them were scenes of him begging for mercy or negotiating. She didn't expect him to be indifferent and even speak rudely as if he wasn't afraid of them. The dragon-headed person and the toad also looked gloomy. They felt that the human in front of them was too arrogant. "We've been tolerant enough, but you didn't take advantage of this opportunity. Since you insist on courting death, I'll fulfill your wish." The dragon-headed person's temper was obviously more irritable. He roared and took a step forward, sweeping in front of Zhuowen as if he had teleported. Immediately, the green dragon crescent blade in his hand turned into a terrifying blade light and slashed down, wanting to cut Zhuowen in two. With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen summoned the death sacrifice sword and blocked in front of him. With a crisp clang, the death sacrifice sword collided with the green dragon crescent blade. The terrifying shockwave spread out, forming a ring of gas that spread out. It looked extremely terrifying. Zhuowen took a few steps back and looked at the green dragon crescent blade in the dragon-headed person's hand. He knew that the green dragon crescent blade of the dragon-headed person was much more advanced than the death sacrifice sword. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to suppress the death sacrifice sword at first contact. The dragon-headed person roared and rushed forward. The moment Zhuowen took a step back, the green dragon crescent blade in his hand turned into a sharp blade light, pouring down like rain in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen held the death sacrifice sword in his left hand and clenched his right hand into a fist. The power of the 3 stars Pangu's sacred body suddenly erupted and slammed forward. Is this guy crazy? How can he block the blade with his bare hands? The 9-tailed fox and the toad looked at Zhuowen's action with strange expressions. The dragon-headed person's green dragon crescent blade was an origin-level divine artifact. Even the two of them didn't dare to block it with their bare hands. However, this human, who was obviously at a disadvantage, did so. Wasn't he looking for death? Bang! But soon, they were shocked to find that the human's fist hit the green dragon crescent blade and deflected it. Then, the death sacrifice sword in the human's left hand accurately pierced the dragon-headed person's chest. The dragon-headed person screamed and immediately gave up on the green dragon crescent blade. He used an escape technique and immediately left Zhuowen's place, landing where the 9-tailed fox and the toad were. How can this guy's physical body be so terrifying? The dragon-headed person kept coughing up blood. The terrifying death aura of the death sacrifice sword poured into his body, constantly devouring his vitality. It was extremely difficult to deal with. Fortunately, the death sacrifice sword's level was not high. Although his vital parts were injured by the death sacrifice sword, it was not fatal. The 9-tailed fox and the toad were also shocked. The way they looked at Zhuowen became more dignified. It seemed that they had underestimated the human in front of them. Zhuowen looked at the dragon-headed person, who was still alive, in surprise and immediately put away the death sacrifice sword. He knew that the reason he couldn't kill the dragon-headed person with one blow was that the death sacrifice sword's level was too low. After all, the death sacrifice sword was only a heavenly path divine artifact, while the dragon-headed person was at the peak of origin master. The difference between the two was not small. Chapter 2700. Entering the Space-Time Temple. You two, are you still planning to watch the show? This person is not simple. Let's kill him together, the dragon-headed person said to the toad and the 9-tailed fox. At the same time, he roared and the beast soldiers behind him rushed out in an orderly manner towards Zhuowen. The 9-tailed fox and the toad also knew that the current situation was critical. They summoned the beast soldiers behind them to join the dragon-headed person's beast soldiers and encircled Zhuowen. The 9-tailed fox and the toad were naturally not watching the show. Instead, they followed behind the beast soldiers and looked for the best opportunity to attack. The dragon-headed person sat cross-legged on the spot and coughed up blood continuously. He was stabbed in his vital parts. Although he did not die, he was seriously injured. He knew that he would be courting death if he joined the battle. Therefore, he planned to recover from his injuries first and let the 9-tailed fox and the toad delay the human. However, what happened next shocked the dragon-headed man. He discovered that Zhuo seemed to be overturning the seas when the three combined beast soldiers attacked him. It was as if Zhuo had entered an unstoppable state. Then, the dragon-headed person was shocked to find that the human was surrounded by the three beast soldiers. Every time he attacked, he would definitely take away the life of a beast soldier. One must know that the strength of each of the three beast soldiers was at least the heavenly Tao Master. However, they were all killed so cleanly by this person. Bang bang bang! Zhuo threw out punch after punch. Every punch formed a fist mark that was branded in the void. The speed of his punches was too fast. In just an instant, he blasted out 150 fist marks. These fist marks overlapped in the starry sky as if they were thrown out at the same time. The aura was vast and earth-shattering. The three beast soldiers were also blasted away by the fist marks at this moment. In the process of flying back, every beast soldier's body collapsed and was annihilated. In just an instant, only the toad and the nine-tailed fox were left on the battlefield. They stood still not far away, and looked dumbfoundedly at the figure that was like a god or a demon lying across the void. The toad and the nine-tailed fox had been following behind. They did not even reach the scene when the battle between the beast soldiers was over. In the span of a single breath, that human had completely annihilated the three beast armies they commanded. They were unable to imagine what sort of strength was required to reach such a terrifying level. This person must be an expert at the second step of Tao validation. We can't fight against him. Retreat. Nine-tailed fox made a prompt decision and immediately retreated, but Toad was slower by a beat. By the time he reacted, Zhuo had arrived, landed in front of Toad, and smashed a punch at him. The Toad's heart was filled with fear. With a loud shout, he unsheathed the divine sword in his hand and slashed out. It was as if the sky had collapsed. Unfortunately, this powerful sword was still shattered by the young man in front of him with a single punch. Let's fight. The Toad felt an unprecedented crisis. Without thinking, he spat out a mouthful of essence blood and quickly formed a seal that landed on the divine sword in his hand. Then, dense Buddhist runes appeared on the surface of the divine sword. Moreover, these Buddhist runes contained a powerful force. Then, these Buddhist runes condensed into a giant glazed sword. It broke through the air and swept toward Zhuo. Zhuo's eyes were solemn. He felt that this was a desperate move from Toad. Its power was terrifying, so he had to use all his strength. When Zhuo's fist hit the glazed sword, he found that a trace of blood appeared on his fist. This glazed sword had actually slightly injured his Pangu sacred body. It was indeed extraordinary. Zhuo was no longer careless. His right hand formed a claw and clasped the tip of the glazed sword. Then, he immediately used the profound meaning to open the sky blade. A mysterious light covered the surface of Zhuo's palm blade. Then, Zhuo gently rotated his palm blade and chopped the glazed sword, completely shattering it. Zhuo's palm blade did not lose its momentum and fell on Toad. Under Toad's fearful gaze, Toad was easily chopped into pieces. Seeing this, Nine-tailed Fox could not help but scream. She had completely lost the will to fight. Her 9 tails swayed and like a bolt of lightning, she shot into the distance. She had fled without fighting. Zhuo just looked indifferently in the direction that Nine-tailed Fox had fled. He did not chase after her. She had a way to escape. If he were to chase after her, he was afraid that he would have to go through a lot of trouble. He did not want to waste time on this. The dragon-headed man sat cross-legged on the side and watched Zhuo easily kill many beast soldiers. He felt bitter and his body stiffened. "Sir, I was blind and offended you. I hope you won't kill me." The dragon-headed man lowered his head and submitted to Zhuo. Zhuo gladly accepted. He did not intend to kill the dragon-headed man. Instead, he looked at the space-time temple in front of him and said, "How much do you know about the space-time temple?" The dragon-headed man was delighted and eagerly introduced the space-time temple's origin. Since the human in front of him had asked him about the space-time temple, It meant that the human did not intend to kill him. He might be able to fight for a chance of survival, so he was particularly enthusiastic in his introduction. After listening to the dragon-headed man's introduction, Zhuowen also had a preliminary understanding of the space-time temple. It turned out that the owner of the space-time temple was a space-time beast. It was said that the space-time beast had a trace of the Candle Dragon's bloodline. It was also one of the top 10 races in the primitive heaven domain. However, the space-time beast race was different from the sorcerer race. They had very few members, much fewer than the devouring race. They rarely appeared in the world. However, once the space-time beast race appeared, it would definitely alarm the primitive heaven domain. This was because any expert from the space-time beast race was definitely a top expert. The space-time temple was obviously left behind by one of the space-time beasts. Of course, the dragon-headed man did not know what was in the space-time temple. However, he knew that the space-time beast race's cave was definitely extremely rich. This was because the space-time beast race was born with the ability to control space-time. They could distort space-time and avoid all kinds of dangers. They were especially suitable for treasure hunting. The space-time beast race's character was also the kind of race that liked treasure hunting. They liked to travel around the starry sky and hide the treasures they collected in their cave as a collection. It could be said that being able to find a space-time beast race's cave was a huge treasure for anyone. Zhuowen nodded and let the dragon-headed man go. He landed in front of the space-time temple's main hall and took out the 3 space-time keys. There were indeed 3 keyholes at the main entrance of the temple, which should correspond to the 3 space-time temple keys. After Zhuowen inserted the 3 space-time keys into the keyholes, the huge temple door set off a terrifying space-time storm. Zhuowen operated the space-time rules and barely avoided being swept away by the space-time storm. He watched the huge temple door slowly open in front of him. Just as Zhuowen wanted to see what was inside the temple door, a terrifying space-time suction force appeared. Zhuowen was not careful and was sucked in. Chapter 2701. Puzzlement. Zhuowen opened his eyes and examined everything in the hall. He discovered that the space-time energy in the hall was even more terrifying. In front of Zhuowen's eyes, it was clearly just a hall, but Zhuowen felt like it was infinitely large. He could not see the edges of the hall. Zhuowen carefully walked forward. Since the outside world was filled with danger, the inside of the temporal temple would definitely be even more dangerous. However, to Zhuowen's surprise, he did not encounter any other dangers along the way. Aside from the powerful space-time energy that made him uncomfortable, he did not encounter any other dangers. Speaking of which, the hall was very spacious. There were hundreds of huge stone pillars in the hall, and at the very front was an altar. Apart from that, there was nothing else in the temporal temple. Zhuowen did not even see any secret doors or rooms. Zhuowen looked at the spacious hall in surprise. In his impression, the temporal temple should have many resources, at least piled up like a mountain. Moreover, the dragon-headed person had said that the temporal temple was the dwelling of the space-time beasts, and the space-time beasts loved to collect treasures. Why was there nothing in the temporal temple? Zhuowen's gaze fell on the altar at the very front. He saw that the altar was also empty. However, at the center of the altar, there was a dark blue ball of light floating about. This dark blue ball of light emitted a mysterious aura that attracted Zhuowen. He could not help but want to approach it and investigate it. Zhuowen hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he followed the carpet and walked towards the altar at the end. Zhuowen became even more careful. He was deeply afraid that he would encounter some unknown danger while walking on the carpet. However, when Zhuowen finally arrived in front of the altar, there was no danger like Zhuowen had imagined. This made Zhuowen sigh in relief. Just what is this thing? Zhuowen looked at the blue ball of light floating in front of him. He discovered that the space-time power contained within the ball of light was extremely terrifying. It was like a lot of space-time power had been compressed together. Zhuowen could not help but feel deep fear. It could be said that this blue light cluster was a ticking time bomb. It was the first time that Zhuowen had encountered such a terrifying compressed space-time power. If this thing exploded, even if he had the 3-star Panga sacred body, he would probably be blown to pieces. However, Zhuowen discovered that the blue light was similar to the space-time heart. The space-time heart was the core energy of the space-time roulette. The space-time roulette relied on the space-time heart to travel through space-time at extreme speeds. Why don't we try using the space-time roulette? Zhuowen muttered to himself. Unable to suppress the impulse in his heart, he took out the space-time roulette. Immediately afterward, after he took out the space-time roulette, the blue light cluster had some strange movements. Then, the blue light cluster approached the space-time roulette and directly entered the space-time roulette. Immediately, Zhuowen discovered that the space-time roulette was wrapped in the blue light cluster. Zhuowen's consciousness could clearly feel that the space-time power in the blue light cluster was continuously pouring into the space-time roulette. The space-time roulette's aura was constantly skyrocketing. Zhuowen knew that the space-time roulette was transforming. Zhuowen waited for 3 days. Finally, the blue light cluster was absorbed by the space-time roulette. Zhuowen looked at the space-time roulette in front of him. He found that the space-time roulette's appearance had not changed at all, but its aura had undergone a tremendous change. Zhuowen was sure that if he drove the space-time roulette again, the speed of the space-time roulette would definitely be dozens or even hundreds of times faster than before. There was no doubt about that. The moment Zhuowen touched the space-time roulette, he discovered that an image of a large hall had appeared in his mind. The image analyzed every corner of the hall, and it was extremely complete. Moreover, he faintly felt that he seemed to have control over the space-time temple. Could it be that the blue light cluster just now was the central hub of the space-time temple? Because I refined the central hub, I gained control of the space-time temple? Zhuowen was surprised, but more than that, he was puzzled. It seemed that he had not done anything, and the blue light cluster had run over and merged into the space-time roulette. Then, he inexplicably gained control of the space-time temple. Zhuowen was somewhat baffled by this free lunch that had fallen from the sky. However, he was more vigilant. He never believed that there was a free lunch in the world. The fact that he had refined the central hub of the space-time temple too easily was an extremely strange thing. Although he felt that this matter was not simple, he still carefully examined the map of the large hall that had appeared in his mind. He discovered that there was a secret passage under the altar. Entering this secret passage seemed to lead to the storage cellar of the space-time temple. The master of the space-time temple should have hidden everything in this cellar. Then, let's go in and take a look. Zhuowen muttered to himself. He opened the secret passage, entered it with a whoosh, and disappeared inside. Before long, Zhuowen arrived in front of the cellar. Following the instructions in his mind, he opened the door to the cellar. Then, a look of shock appeared on his face. This was because the cellar of the space-time temple was filled with all kinds of resources. The cellar was very large, about the size of 2 football fields. However, it was filled with resources. This shocked Zhuowen. He saw a mountain of heavenly law origin crystals inside. Moreover, they were all special-grade heavenly law origin crystals. After all, these special-grade heavenly law origin crystals had all been purified. Although the mountain of special-grade heavenly law origin crystals might not be as large as the special-grade heavenly law origin crystal vein Zhuowen had obtained from the origin grounds, their quality might surpass the special-grade heavenly law origin crystal vein that Zhuowen had obtained. After all, although the vein Zhuowen had obtained last time was enormous, if it was truly purified into crystals, it might not necessarily be as large as the pair of white special-grade heavenly law origin crystals in front of Zhuowen. Apart from the special-grade heavenly law origin crystals, there were many precious divine medicines in the cellar, as well as various rare ores used for forging weapons. There were also various divine artifacts of the Tao. It could be said that the amount of resources in the cellar was definitely the most plentiful that Zhuowen had seen so far. It was also the most varied. There are so many forging materials. Kid, leave these forging materials to me. With these precious forging materials, I think the blood immortal and I will be able to evolve again. Xiao Hei swept out with the thunderfire sword. Her eyes shone as she stared at the piles of forging materials in the cellar. Zhuowen nodded. He summoned the blood immortal and sacrificial death and said, Xiao Hei, refine the sacrificial death as well. Xiao Hei was an artifact cultivator. Her attainments in forging were extremely profound. As long as she had enough forging materials, Xiao Hei could basically constantly evolve. Chapter 2702. A surprising breakthrough. Xiao Hei nodded repeatedly. Then, with the blood immortal sword and the sacrificial death sword in hand, he pounced on the pile of refining materials with glowing eyes as he clicked his tongue in wonder. Zhuowen, on the other hand, swept everything in the cellar into his small world like a whirlwind, leaving nothing behind. Kid, I might need to stay here for a while. I need to refine these refining materials for my own advancement, Xiao Hei suddenly said to Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded in agreement. Now that he had obtained so many resources, he also planned to cultivate in seclusion. Since he had obtained so many special-grade Heavenly Law origin crystals, he naturally wanted to continue cultivating the Pangu sacred body. He hoped to improve it further. Zhuowen's doppelganger separated from his original body and sat cross-legged on one side. Using the power of devouring, it began to absorb the special-grade Heavenly Law origin crystals in the pocket world like a whale sucking in water. His original body sat cross-legged not far from his doppelganger, slowly absorbing the remnant energy emitted by his doppelganger while comprehending his own Heavenly Law. Zhuowen could feel that his original body was not far away from completely comprehending the Heavenly Law. Moreover, with the assistance of the special-grade Heavenly Law origin crystals, his original body's cultivation would naturally be like a tiger that had grown wings. After half a month, his original body suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, his aura began to skyrocket at an extremely fast speed, like a sharp arrow piercing through the clouds. Soon, his original body broke through and became a half-step Heavenly Law master. The doppelganger seemed to have sensed it. Looking at his original body's skyrocketing aura, he knew that his original body was about to break through. A breakthrough naturally required a huge supply of energy, and the special-grade Heavenly Law origin crystals were naturally the best choice. The doppelganger flicked his finger, and a devouring vortex appeared between his original body's eyebrows. Then, waves of energy from the Heavenly Law origin crystals surged out like a tide and rushed into the depths of his original body's eyebrows. After that, the aura of his main body skyrocketed once more, rising from the level of a half-step Heavenly Tao Master. Zhuowen could clearly sense that the shackles on his body seemed to have cracked as his aura skyrocketed, and it seemed like they would shatter at any moment. Zhuowen knew that this shackle was the last barrier he had to overcome to come into contact with the Heavenly Tao. Moreover, Zhuowen discovered that this shackle was extremely powerful and terrifying. He had tried to break through it dozens of times, but all of them ended in failure. Zhuowen's stubbornness flared up. He began to channel even more of his devouring power, desperately absorbing the energy of the special-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystal. He wanted to break through this shackle in one go. If the cultivators of the Xianmi Heavenly Domain saw that Zhuowen had not only used a special-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystal to break through to Heavenly Tao Lord, but also failed to break through after so many attempts, they would definitely curse him for being a wastrel. This was because there was a saying in the Xianmi Heavenly Domain that the stronger a cultivator's Tao root, the easier it would be for them to break through to the Heavenly Tao Lord realm. Supposedly, cultivators that possessed heaven-grade Tao roots would be able to break through to the Heavenly Tao Lord realm on their own even if they didn't rely on any Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Only those cultivators with extremely weak Tao roots would have to rely on the energy of the outside world to break through their shackles. However, even the weakest Tao root would be sufficient to break through to the heavenly Tao Lord realm by utilizing a certain amount of low-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals. On the other hand, Zhuowen had relied on a special grade heavenly Tao origin crystal to break through. Moreover, he'd tried to break through a few tens of times, so all the cultivators of the Xianmi heavenly domain knew that this person was probably a fellow that didn't possess a natural talent in Tao roots. Moreover, there would even be people that would curse him for wasting God's given gift. He clearly didn't possess a Tao root, yet he'd actually acted so recklessly and utilized a large amount of special grade heavenly Tao origin crystals to break through by force. Was he courting death? Zhuowen didn't know all of this, and he wasn't even sure if he possessed a Tao root. He'd thought that others would break through to the heavenly Tao Lord realm in the same manner as him, and he'd even muttered about how difficult it was to break through to the heavenly Tao Lord realm. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong. After all, he possessed so many special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals. How could an ordinary cultivator of the Xianmi heavenly domain possess so many special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals to break through to the heavenly Tao Lord realm? It would already be very good if they possessed low-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals. Since they'd all successfully broken through to the heavenly Tao Lord realm, then why hadn't he broken through after absorbing so many special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals? However, the arrow was already knocked on the bow, and he had no choice but to release it. Zhuowen had no choice but to continue absorbing special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals to break through to the heavenly Tao Lord realm with all his strength. His clone also stopped absorbing special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals and looked at his main body in shock. His main body was absorbing special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals at a speed that was countless times faster than his clone. His clone realized that something was wrong when he saw the small mountain of special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals in the small world continuously decreasing, and he couldn't help but stand up. After absorbing the special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals for half a month, the third flame star between his clone's eyebrows had finally become much brighter. It was no longer as dim as it was at the beginning. Obviously, his clone's Pangu sacred body had also made some progress in the past half a month and had broken through to the middle 3-star level. His clone had originally estimated that if he absorbed a portion of the special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals, his Pangu sacred body should have no problem breaking through to the peak 3-star level. However, now that something had happened to his main body, his clone naturally couldn't continue absorbing special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals. Instead, he looked at his clone worriedly. His main body's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Although his heart ached when he saw the special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals continuously decreasing, his stubbornness also rose. His main body roared angrily, and his devouring power swept away all the special-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals in the small world and poured them all into his body. He planned to stake everything on this one throw and give it his all. This time, he must break through to the heavenly Tao Lord realm. Crack! Finally, the moment the last bit of energy poured into Zhuowen's body, Zhuowen seemed to hear the sound of the shackles in his body shattering. In the end, he discovered that the shackles were collapsing. Zhuowen let out a long roar, and the aura in his body rose to the extreme. At the same time, he felt that he had complete control over the heavenly Tao rules around him. However, Zhuowen discovered that the meridians in his body didn't seem to have transformed into Tao meridians. The only change was that after the illusory sky bridge shattered, it entered his dantian and formed a black vortex. This black vortex was like a black hole in the starry sky, deep and endless. Zhuowen had already learned a little about the heavenly Tao Lord from Fire Plume. He knew that the meridians in the body of a Tao validation cultivator would transform into Tao meridians the moment they broke through. The so-called Dao meridians were naturally meridians that had been transformed by Dao runes into more powerful meridians. They could use the power of the heavenly Dao rules at will. Chapter 2703. Killing intent. Targeted at Kong Shizhuan could sense that after his main body became the heavenly Dao master, his strength was no weaker than an ordinary master of primordial chaos. It was a very strange feeling. Zhuowen realized that there was something wrong with his breakthrough because the situation after his breakthrough was very different from what Fire Plume had described. Although he was very puzzled and wanted to know what was going on, he knew that now was not the time to ask. After all, he did not have a cultivator from the Xianmi heavenly domain like Fire Plume by his side to explain it to him. Zhuowen guessed that the reason for this was very likely to have something to do with his Dao root. After he went to the Xianmi heavenly domain this time, he was indeed going to test his Dao root. He was also looking forward to the grade of his Dao root. Breaking through to the heavenly Dao master consumed so many special grade heavenly Dao origin crystals. This, after discovering that 2/3 of the special grade heavenly Dao origin crystals in the small world had been consumed, Zhuowen was speechless and felt that it was unbelievable. After all, the heavenly Dao master was only the first minor realm of the first step of Dao validation. He actually needed so many special grade heavenly Dao origin crystals to break through. He could not imagine how terrifying the resources he would need if he continued to break through in the future. It could be said that his main body was even more terrifying than the clone's Pangu sacred body. What Zhuowen didn't know was that the reason he needed so many special grade heavenly Dao origin crystals was mainly because he didn't have an ancestral Dao root, or perhaps his ancestral Dao root was extremely inferior. So, he needed even more energy to break through. Just think about it, who would have so many special grade heavenly Dao origin crystals when breaking through to the heavenly Dao master? Even if they had so many special grade heavenly Dao origin crystals, ordinary cultivators would give up after failing to break through a few times because they knew that it was simply a waste of effort. However, Zhuowen did not understand this. He broke through to the heavenly Dao master hundreds of times and consumed most of the special grade heavenly Dao origin crystals in the small mountain before he finally broke through. Of course, after breaking through, Zhuowen also discovered that his strength was much stronger than ordinary heavenly Dao masters. His strength was comparable to that of Master of Primordial Chaos, which was a great gain. Brat, the commotion caused by your breakthrough is too big. I was almost scared to death by you. Xiao He brought the blood immortal sword and the sacrificial death sword to Zhuowen. She looked at him with a strange look. Zhuowen scratched his head and changed the topic. You've already refined those materials? However, Xiao He shook her head and said, it's not that simple. I've only started refining it. If I want to use these materials to evolve, it will take some time. Let's go into your small world first. I plan to go into seclusion for a while. With so many materials, I think I can try to break through to the second step of Dao confirmation. Zhuowen did not doubt Xiao He's words. After putting Xiao He and the others into his small world, he headed towards the depths of the Divine Hall. In the depths, Zhuowen knew that there was a teleportation array to leave the Temporal Temple. This time, entering the Temporal Temple could be said to be extremely smooth. However, Zhuowen always felt strange in his heart. This was because his journey in the Temporal Temple was too smooth. He did not encounter any danger at all. This made him feel a little uncomfortable. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Zhuowen laughed at himself. After entering the depths of the temple, he found the teleportation array and activated it without hesitation. When Zhuowen opened his eyes again, he looked around and discovered that he had returned to the place he had been before. Then, Zhuowen found that a murderous intent had locked onto him. This murderous aura was not unfamiliar to Zhuowen. It belonged to Kong Shi. Zhuowen cursed inwardly. He did not expect that the teleportation array would be so deceptive. It actually teleported him to his original place. Zhuowen did not hesitate to take out the space-time roulette and instantly disappeared from where he was. Boom! Where Zhuowen had been, the starry sky collapsed inch by inch. A figure surrounded by flames slowly appeared where Zhuowen had just appeared. Trying to escape? Do you think you can escape? The corners of Kong Shi's mouth curled into a smug smile. He looked at Zhuowen, who had escaped far away, and chased after him without hesitation. However, Kong Shi soon discovered that he was quickly left far behind by Zhuowen in the process of chasing. When did this guy's flying divine tool become so fast? Kong Shi looked at Zhuowen, who had turned into a black dot in shock, and could not help but mutter to himself in shock. He had investigated Zhuowen's flying divine tool before. Although its speed was extraordinary due to the space-time laws, it was still inferior to his. But now Zhuowen's speed was much faster than before. In the blink of an eye, he had left him behind. Zhuowen looked at Kong Shi, who had been left behind, and was a little shocked by the space-time roulette's current speed. It seemed that the blue ball of light in the temporal temple was of great help to the space-time roulette's evolution. This Kong Shi is still a scourge. It's better to kill him as soon as possible. After discovering the terrifying speed of the space-time roulette, Zhuowen was no longer worried about his own safety. Instead, he had other thoughts. Kong Shi had targeted him several times. If he let Kong Shi go, the Phoenix people would probably send experts to hunt him down. If he killed Kong Shi now, Zhuowen would only be at the two extremities of life and death in the eyes of the Phoenix people's three elders. They would definitely not suspect him. Thinking of this, killing intent surged in Zhuowen's eyes. He took out Ho Yi's sacred arrow from his pocket world and began to inject energy from the special-grade Heavenly Law Origin crystal vein into it. Kong Shi, you and I have no enmity. But since you were the one who was unjust first, don't blame me for being merciless. The killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes was monstrous. When it fused with the killing intent from Ho Yi's sacred arrow, the entire starry sky seemed to tremble. Under Zhuowen's control, the space-time roulette began to turn around and rush towards Kong Shi. Kong Shi could not help but feel anxious when he saw Zhuowen getting further and further away. He had been hiding here for more than half a month and had waited with great difficulty for Zhuowen to come out. He was very unwilling to accept that Zhuowen had escaped right under his nose. But soon, Kong Shi discovered that Zhuowen, who had originally been far away, was actually approaching him. This stunned Kong Shi for a moment before a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. Zhuowen, I think you are simply courting death. You actually came back. Ha! Kong Shi laughed loudly. But soon, his laughter came to an abrupt end because he felt an unprecedented killing intent approaching him. This was not the first time he had felt this killing intent. He had felt it when he was fighting Master Yuan Hui. It was coming from Zhuowen's peerless monster. He focused his eyes and immediately trembled in fear because he saw Zhuowen rushing over again with the space-time roulette. He was holding Ho Yi's sacred arrow in his hand and was constantly accumulating power. I can't let him shoot that arrow. Kong Shi was horrified. He took a step forward and rushed towards Zhuowen. Chapter 2704. Despairing killing intent. Kong Shi was extremely fast, shooting over like a bolt of lightning. Very soon, the distance between him and Zhuowen rapidly decreased. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes, but he did not panic as he controlled the space-time roulette to rapidly retreat. The space-time roulette was no longer what it used to be. It was much faster than before, and it actually managed to pull away from Kong Shi in an instant. Kong Shi was flustered and exasperated, but there was nothing he could do. Even when he unleashed his fastest speed, he still could not catch up to Zhuowen. What made Kong Shi even more furious was that Zhuowen was clearly faster than him, but he always maintained a distance of 1,000 meters from him. The Ho Yi's godly arrow's cold tip was aimed straight at him, and the terrifying killing intent made his hair stand on end. I can't let this continue. Seeing the killing intent erupting from the Ho Yi's godly arrow grow more and more terrifying, and Kong Shi was unable to catch up to Zhuowen, Kong Shi began to consider retreating. He knew very well that if he allowed Zhuowen to shoot the Ho Yi's godly arrow in the end, he would definitely die. Thinking up to there, Kong Shi took out his flight god artifact and immediately shot away from Zhuowen. He pushed his speed to the limit, almost as if he did not care about his life. Zhuowen looked at Kong Shi, who had fled without a trace. The corners of his mouth revealed a mocking smile as he muttered to himself, "Can you really escape?" With that, Zhuowen pushed the spacetime roulette to the limit, turning into an illusory streak of light as he shot away, disappearing from where he was in an instant. Kong Shi desperately drove his flight god artifact, but his heart sank as he looked at Zhuowen, who was constantly approaching him. In particular, he discovered that the killing intent on the blood-stained horn was even more terrifying than before. The terrifying killing intent was like a huge net that gradually enveloped him. Kong Shi knew that the terrifying killing intent was locked onto him. Once the killing intent completely locked onto him, he would be unable to escape. At this moment, Kong Shi somewhat regretted acting alone. If he had known that the speed of Zhuowen's spacetime roulette had suddenly become so terrifying, then he would not have come alone to kill Zhuowen. Now, he had even lost his life. "Zhuowen, let's talk nicely. I came here this time to pass on a message from Lady Chen Shui. Put down that weapon first." Kong Shi quickly shouted to Zhuowen behind him. What did Chen Shui bring? The mocking smile on Zhuowen's face grew thicker. Not only did he not slow down, the killing intent in his eyes grew thicker. Zhuowen and Mu Qinshui had been husband and wife for many years. No one knew Mu Qinshui better than he did. If Mu Qinshui had something to say, she wouldn't pass the message to others. Instead, she would send a message to him directly. Kong Shi's words might be able to deceive a child, but it was a waste of effort to deceive Zhuowen. Kong Shi found that there were many flaws in his words. Faced with Zhuowen's increasingly terrifying killing intent, Kong Shi's heart was filled with fear, and he finally began to beg for mercy. It was a pity that even if Kong Shi begged for mercy, Zhuowen remained indifferent. Today, he had to kill Kong Shi. Otherwise, if he let him go, the Ho Yi's divine arrow on him would be exposed. Zhuowen was just a small character, so the Phoenix people did not pay attention to him. However, the Ho Yi's divine arrow on him was not normal. Even if it was a great ancient race like the Phoenix people, it was hard for them not to be moved. With Kong Shi's thoughts, if he let him go, he would definitely spread the news to the Phoenix people that Zhuowen had the Ho Yi's divine arrow on him. When that time came, Zhuowen's situation would be worrying. Kong Shi also felt Zhuowen's killing intent. He said ruthlessly, "Zhuowen, I am a powerhouse of the Phoenix people. If you kill me, aren't you afraid that the Phoenix people will take revenge? As long as you let me go this time, I will pretend that nothing happened. You go your way and I will go mine." Zhuowen stopped the spacetime roulette and said indifferently, "If I let you go, are you sure you will keep it a secret?" Seeing that Zhuowen had stopped, Kong Shi secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He quickly said, "I am willing to swear that I will never reveal your secret." After saying that, Kong Shi's heart was filled with hatred. If he could successfully escape this time, he would definitely take revenge. He would not say anything when the time came, but he would show the video of Zhuowen's battle to the Phoenix people's elders. With the Phoenix people's elders' eyesight, they would definitely be able to see that the blood-stained horn on Zhuowen's body was not ordinary. When the time came, even if he did not say anything, the elders would still look for Zhuowen. To him, this was killing two birds with one stone. If that's the case, Zhuowen nodded. The look of surprise on Kong Shi's face grew even stronger. However, Kong Shi quickly realized that something was amiss. After Zhuowen said those words, the killing intent in the surroundings grew even more terrifying, becoming like a world-shaking tsunami. Immediately after, Kong Shi realized that the endless killing intent had completely formed a large net, firmly locking him in place. Kong Shi's face turned pale. He knew that he had been completely locked in by the blood-stained horn. If he did not destroy the horn, or if the horn killed him, that thing would not stop. It would chase him to the ends of the earth. Zhuowen, what is the meaning of this? Do you really intend to become enemies with the Phoenix people? Kong Shi roared angrily. Zhuowen, however, sneered and said, Do you think you can represent the entire Phoenix people? Don't laugh at me until my teeth fall out. After I kill you today, no one will know that I did it. Moreover, no one will suspect me because I am only the master of the heavenly Tao. Do you think anyone will believe that a heavenly Tao master cultivator can kill an eternal overlord? Kong Shi's face darkened. Zhuowen was right. Zhuowen's cultivation level was too low. There was a huge gap between them. If not for Hou Yi's godly arrow, Kong Shi would not be a match for him at all. The problem now was, after he was killed, would anyone believe that Zhuowen, who was only the master of the heavenly Tao, was the murderer? The answer was obvious. It was impossible. When he thought of this, Kong Shi flicked his finger and secretly sent out a message. He wanted to send this message to the three elders. Unfortunately, the signal was intercepted by an invisible force. A shielding formation? When did you set it up? Kong Shi's face fell when he saw that the signal had been intercepted. Now that he couldn't even send out a signal, it was truly terrible for him. Kong Shi, take this arrow of mine. If you can block this arrow, what harm is there in letting you live? Zhuowen's indifferent voice rang out. The killing intent of the Hou Yi's godly arrow in his hand reached its peak. Then, a storm of killing intent rose up around Zhuowen. Dong! A sound like a drum rang out as the Hou Yi's godly arrow pierced through the air. For a moment, the sky was filled with killing intent, and an endless storm erupted. The entire starry sky seemed to be filled with killing intent, turning into a distorted void. Chapter 2705. Divine soared across the sky. Kong Shi's hair stood on end as he stared at the arrow of killing intent shooting towards him. Cold sweat dripped down from his forehead as a shadow of death loomed over his heart. It was as if he would die for sure if he took this arrow head-on. He wanted to escape, but the killing intent was firmly locked onto him. As he continued to retreat, the divine arrow continued to advance and shoot towards him. Kong Shi roared as he retreated. He took out everything that could be used for defense from his ring, including divine artifacts, crystals, and herbs. He threw them all out. Kong Shi was truly scared now. He was so scared that he didn't know what to do. He took out everything that could be used in his ring. Bang! 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 The divine arrow soared through the sky, and anything that stood in its way was shattered into pieces, turning into dust. Kong Shi was still retreating, using the fastest speed he had ever used in his life. At the same time, he was constantly throwing out items to block the incoming arrows. Kong Shi's heart sank to the bottom when he saw the divine arrow shattering everything in its path. This was simply too terrifying. When Hou Yi's divine arrow broke through all the divine artifacts and arrived in front of Kong Shi, a trace of ruthlessness flashed through Kong Shi's eyes. He immediately tore off the necklace in front of his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Instantly, a golden light burst out from the necklace, turning into a golden light shield that enveloped Kong Shi. Bang! The Hou Yi divine arrow also shot over this time, smashing heavily against the golden light barrier and producing a thunderous boom. Zhuowen stared at the golden light shield in surprise. This was the first time he had seen something that could block the unstoppable Hou Yi's divine arrow. However, he soon discovered that the golden light shield was trembling violently. Then, he discovered that Kong Shi's face was growing paler and paler. His body was rapidly becoming thinner and thinner, and his cheeks were deeply sunken. In this short period of time, most of Kong Shi's life force had been taken away. Moreover, the life force in his body was still being taken away. Zhuowen guessed that Kong Shi was using his life force in exchange for this powerful defense. However, the price was extremely high. He was using his own life force as a catalyst. Within the span of a few breaths, a big part of Kong Shi's life force was drained away. Soon, Kong Shi's entire body was like a dried corpse. His hair had also turned white, and it was impossible to recognize his original appearance. Gotcha! Without any more life force to provide, the golden light shield's power began to weaken. In the end, it was pierced through by the Ho-E divine arrow, which then quickly pierced through Kong Shi's body. Bang! When the arrow pierced through Kong Shi's body, Kong Shi screamed miserably. His body began to disintegrate and disintegrate, eventually disintegrating into countless fine powder. Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief while his countenance was pale. He summoned the spacetime roulette to flash over to where Kong Shi perished, and then he put away the Ho-E divine arrows that were scattered at the side. This Kong Shi is really hard to deal with. He actually has such a powerful secret method on him. Zhuowen sighed. In Zhuowen's opinion, Ho-Yi's sacred arrow had always been an instant kill. However, Kong Shi had managed to hold on for quite some time under the might of Ho-Yi's sacred arrow. Zhuowen knew that it was because he hadn't transferred enough energy to Ho-Yi's sacred arrow. He had only transferred enough energy to Ho-Yi's sacred arrow. If he had let Ho-Yi's sacred arrow absorb it, this gluttonous monster would have sucked up all the energy in his entire top-grade Heavenly Law origin crystal vein. The more energy Ho-Yi's sacred arrow absorbed, the more powerful it would be. Of course, the killing intent released by Ho-Yi's sacred arrow would also be more terrifying. At that time, Zhuowen wasn't sure if he could withstand the terrifying killing intent completely released by Ho-Yi's sacred arrow. At the same time, Zhuowen was also a little worried. Kong Shi was only an early-stage eternal overlord, yet he could withstand Ho-Yi's sacred arrow for a moment. What if he was a peak eternal overlord or a third-step Dao-confirming expert? Zhuowen knew that Ho-Yi's sacred arrow wouldn't be able to kill a third-step Dao-confirming expert in a single strike. Of course, Zhuowen also felt that his worries were groundless. Third-step Dao-confirming experts were all old monsters that rarely appeared in the world. Such experts wouldn't easily appear in the world. After all, such experts were considered extremely top-notch existences among the various great forces. While Zhuowen was lost in thought, Zhuowen didn't notice that on the space-time roulette deck, a wisp of inconspicuous blue light silently approached Zhuowen like a snake. Whoosh! In an instant, this blue light followed Zhuowen's feet and rushed into Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen only felt the soles of his feet go numb. Then, he felt a strange energy rush through his body, rushing directly into the depths of his knowledge sea. Furthermore, Zhuowen realized that as this strange energy was moving through his body, he felt as if he had been electrocuted, and he was paralyzed on the spot. I've been waiting for this opportunity. My spirit has been dormant for so many years. Finally, I have a chance to possess someone. Although it's just a human, it's better than being a spirit all the time. Moreover, this human has an aura that makes me feel comfortable. It seems to be the aura of the ancestral sorcerer? Suddenly, an old voice sounded in Zhuowen's mind. Zhuowen's whole body went numb and he could only stand motionless. Listening to the strange voice that suddenly appeared in his mind, he knew that this spirit was planning to hibernate him. However, he was puzzled as to when this divine soul had been hidden by his side. The space-time temple master? Zhuowen thought of the blue light cluster on the altar of the space-time temple. When he found that this blue light cluster was actively refined by the space-time roulette, he felt that it was strange. Now, it seemed that it was this spirit's doing. However, this spirit was indeed powerful. Zhuowen had been careful enough, but he didn't find anything wrong. It could be seen that this spirit was indeed very powerful in terms of concealment. Boy! Good reaction, I am indeed the space-time master. Speaking of which, I have to thank you for bringing me out of the space-time temple and bringing me such a perfect body. I feel the aura of the ancestral sorcerer on you. Could it be that you have fused with the ancestral sorcerer's venom? In his mind, the old voice was full of pride, and at the same time, there was a hint of surprise. You know about the ancestral sorcerer's venom? Zhuowen was shocked. Haha. Boy, let me tell you. The ancestor of the space-time beast clan is the ancestral sorcerer Candle Dragon. I came here looking for the ancestral sorcerer's venom, but I didn't expect that I would be discovered by the experts of the human clan and a great battle would break out. However, I already have an idea about the ancestral sorcerer's venom. As long as I possess you, I will look for my ancestral sorcerer's venom. Haha, with the fusion of two ancestral sorcerer's venom, my strength will reach an unprecedented level. At that time, the Space-Time Beast clan is destined to surpass the Sorcerer clan and become the largest clan in the untainted heavenly domain. The old voice was full of unconcealable excitement, and Zhuowen was surprised. It turned out that the Space-Time Master had come to look for the Candle Dragon's venom. Chapter 2706. The Space-Time Master, Kid. I'll take your body without hesitation. Haha. The old voice chuckled and began to attack Zhuowen's spirit. He wanted to destroy Zhuowen's spirit and replace it. What is this? Is this the Panga banner? Heavens, why is there such a thing in your spirit? No. Just as the Space-Time Master's spirit was about to take over Zhuowen's body, he was stopped by the Panga banner. The Panga banner fluttered in the wind, its surface glowing with a mysterious light. Under this light, the Space-Time Master's soul shrank rapidly. The power of his soul was like a candle flame, about to be extinguished at any moment. Zhuowen's eyes were calm. After knowing that the Space-Time Master had the Panga banner in his spirit, he was not afraid of being taken over. The Panga banner belonged to Pangu, and Pangu was the master who created the world. When such an existence appeared in his spirit, it was almost invulnerable. It was basically impossible for anyone to take over his spirit. This was also the main reason why Zhuowen could be so calm when the Space-Time Master tried to take over his body. He knew that no matter how strong the Space-Time Master's spirit was, he could not take over his body. Spare me. Let me live. The Space-Time Master panicked. The Panga banner was too restrictive on his spirit. He could not resist and could only beg for mercy. Zhuowen did not care at all. He just watched as the Space-Time Master's spirit was constantly weakened before his eyes. When the Space-Time Master's spirit was almost transparent and about to collapse at any time, Zhuowen swept out with his consciousness and pulled the Space-Time Master's spirit out. At this moment, the Space-Time Master's spirit was almost transparent and severely damaged. Zhuowen reached out with his right hand and grabbed the Space-Time Lord's soul. Then, he began to use a soul-searching technique. Since the Space-Time Master knew about the Candle Dragon parasite, Zhuowen naturally would not let him go. The Space-Time Master howled furiously. This person in front of him actually dared to search his soul. This was a complete disregard for him, the Space-Time Master. This was an insult to him. However, the Space-Time Technique's soul was too weak. He didn't even have the strength to resist. He could only watch as Zhuowen carefully searched his soul memories. After Zhuowen finished reading, he flicked his finger and released a flame that burned the Space-Time Master's soul to ashes. The Space-Time Master had always harbored ill intentions, so Zhuowen naturally wouldn't show him any mercy. At the same time, Zhuowen's divine sense carefully examined the space-time roulette under his feet, and then his right hand reached into the bottom of the space-time roulette. In an inconspicuous groove, he found a black ring. This black ring was the Space-Time Lord's small world. It was secretly placed at the bottom of the space-time wheel by the Space-Time Lord when the blue ball of light fused with the space-time wheel. This was so that he could take it out and use it after completely possessing Zhuowen. The Space-Time Master did indeed have clues about the Candle Dragon parasite, and the clues were in this ring. From the Space-Time Master's memories, he learned that the Space-Time Master had obtained an incomplete map. It was said that this incomplete map pointed to the location of the Candle Dragon parasite, but the map was too incomplete, so the Spacetime Master found the wrong place and found the 8 heavens. He didn't find any trace of the Candle Dragon parasite in the 8 heavens, so he guessed that this map should be somewhere in the Xianmi heavenly domain. Unfortunately, as soon as he entered the Xianmi heavenly domain, he was discovered by human race powerhouses and was chased all the way. He was almost destroyed in body and soul. In the end, he was seriously injured and hid in a mysterious space that he opened up in the 8 heavens. The spacetime key was deliberately distributed by the Spacetime Master so that someone could gather 3 spacetime keys and enter the Spacetime Temple. Then, he could possess the body and be reborn. It could be said that the Spacetime Master's plan was very good, but unfortunately, he met Zhuowen. When Zhuowen opened the ring, he was immediately shocked because he found more resources in the space of the ring than in the Spacetime Temple. Among them, he found a mountain of special-grade Heavenly Path origin crystals. The number of special-grade Heavenly Path origin crystals in the ring was at least twice as many as the ones in the cellar. In addition, there were even more divine medicines, materials, and other resources. Zhuowen forcibly suppressed the excitement in his heart and began to search for the incomplete map that the Spacetime Master had mentioned in this large pile of resources. Soon, Zhuowen found a piece of paper that glowed with a silver light in the corner. This piece of paper was only the size of a palm, and from the map recorded on it, it could be seen that this was only a quarter of a complete map. Because the map was too incomplete, Zhuowen couldn't see where the location on the map was. However, Zhuowen had already learned from the memories of the Spacetime Master that he had rejected the 8 heavens and the primitive heavenly realm. Therefore, the location recorded on this map could only be the Xianmi heavenly realm. When Zhuowen went to Xianmi heavenly domain this time, it seemed like he had to find a detailed map of Xianmi heavenly domain. Once he could find the location that corresponded to this map fragment, Zhuowen knew that he would be able to find the location of the Candle Dragon Goo Worm. Zhuowen put away the small world of the Spacetime Master with satisfaction. The harvest this time could be said to be extremely rich. The number of resources in the small world of the Spacetime Master was beyond Zhuowen's expectations. In particular, there were twice as many special-grade Heavenly Path origin crystals in the small world as there were in the Spacetime Temple. This was definitely a pleasant surprise for Zhuowen. At the very least, his 3-star Pangu sacred body had been cultivated to the peak. With these special-grade Heavenly Path origin crystals, Zhuowen could even use Hou Yi's sacred arrow several times. Hou Yi's sacred arrow was now Zhuowen's final trump card, and the special-grade Heavenly Path origin crystals were really very important to Zhuowen. Zhuowen once again came in front of the natural chasm. As he looked at the empty natural chasm, his eyes revealed a solemn expression. Zhuowen took out the Beast Bone Array disc and began to set up an anti-gravity array on the spacetime roulette. Since he had obtained Guo Yi and Shihuai's spaceship, he had been studying the anti-gravity array on the spaceship during this period of time. It could be considered a small achievement. At the very least, he could simulate setting up an anti-gravity array. Although the anti-gravity array was extremely advanced and there were some flaws in the array that Zhuowen had set up, Zhuowen knew that it should be more than enough to resist the terrifying gravity in the natural chasm. Zhuowen's main concern now was the crisis of the strange beasts that could appear at any time in the natural chasm. According to Fire Plume, Zhuowen knew that the strange beasts in the natural chasm were extremely terrifying. The weakest one was at the Heavenly Path Master level, and it was said that the strongest one could possibly reach the 3rd step Dao validation level. Chapter 2707. Heavenly Zhuowen spent a few days setting up his imitation of the anti-gravity array on the spacetime roulette. To be on the safe side, Zhuowen checked it repeatedly. After confirming that there were no mistakes in the anti-gravity array, Zhuowen was relieved. Jumping onto the spacetime roulette, Zhuowen drove it into the heavenly moat in front of him. Boom. The moment he entered the heavenly moat, Zhuowen clearly felt the space-time roulette shake violently. He even felt like he was falling. However, the anti-gravity array around the space-time roulette also came into play. The array emitted a faint green light, and the feeling of falling quickly disappeared. Zhuowen knew that the anti-gravity array on the space-time roulette had taken effect. Zhuowen was very vigilant. He knew that the heavenly moat was not an ordinary place. He had to be very alert. The heavenly moat was very big. Zhuowen still could not see the other side of the heavenly moat even after traveling for half a day. Swoosh! Swoosh! Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air attracted Zhuowen's attention. Black shadows swept over from the front. These shadows were the size of a palm and looked like spiders. Moreover, the strange thing was that these spiders actually had thin wings that were like the wings of a cicada. They flapped their wings and rushed over explosively. Their speed was so fast that it had simply reached an astonishing level. Although these winged spiders were not big, their auras were extremely powerful. With Zhuowen's divine sense, he immediately sensed that these strange spiders were all heavenly Tao masters. Moreover, it was not just one, but a group. At a rough glance, this group of spiders was close to 100. Close to 100 heavenly Tao masters in a harsh environment like the heavenly moat. Most cultivators would not be able to resist. Zhuowen's eyes were dark. He casually used the slaughtering Tao finger. Every slaughtering Tao finger could kill a large group of spiders. However, Zhuowen discovered that after he killed most of the spiders, the remaining spiders were emitting a strange buzzing sound. Zhuowen could hear the anger of these spiders from the buzzing sound. Then, Zhuowen heard even more intense sounds of breaking through the air. In front of him, there were thousands of black shadows rapidly rushing over. They were all spiders with wings. Zhuowen's expression changed drastically. He instantly blasted out 10 slaughtered Tao fingers, creating a huge gap in the numerous spiders that were blocking his way. Then, Zhuowen followed the gap and turned into a stream of light, escaping. There were too many spiders, and Zhuowen didn't want to fight them head-on. Furthermore, he had always kept in mind how terrifying the natural chasm was. If he were to cause too much of a commotion here, it was hard to guarantee that he wouldn't attract the attention of other terrifying strange beasts in the natural chasm. Zhuowen continued to move forward, but he soon realized that something was wrong. He realized that the area he was in was even darker than the surroundings. This pitch-black area was about a mile or so, and no matter how quickly Zhuowen urged the space-time roulette to leave, he found that this pitch-black shadow actually moved with him. Due to the gravity of the natural chasm, the space-time roulette's speed was much slower than in the outside world. However, its speed was still not to be underestimated. However, this shadow was able to follow the space-time roulette closely. It was obvious that this shadow wasn't simple. Zhuowen's heart sank slightly. He knew that he must have been targeted by some strange beast. Sure enough, the space-time roulette didn't fly far before Zhuowen discovered that the space-time roulette was trembling violently. Then, it swayed violently. Zhuowen's divine sense was shocked to discover that in the shadow below the space-time roulette, a pitch-black head slowly emerged. This head raised its head, opened its bloody mouth, and swallowed the space-time roulette. Although the space-time roulette tried its best to break free, it found that there seemed to be some terrifying stickiness in the shadow. The space-time roulette could only circle in place. Seeing that the big mouth was about to swallow the space-time roulette, Zhuowen couldn't care less. He kept the space-time roulette into his small world. Then, he crushed an escape talisman and instantly disappeared. When Zhuowen reappeared in another void, his body trembled. He felt the terrifying gravity below the natural chasm. He could only continuously stimulate the energy in his body to resist the terrifying gravity below the natural chasm. The gravity of the natural chasm is really terrifying. Even I can't move an inch under this gravity. No wonder the flying ships of the cultivators from the Xianmi heavenly domain were equipped with anti-gravity arrays. Zhuowen muttered to himself. After experiencing the terrifying gravity of the natural chasm, Zhuowen summoned the space-time roulette again and jumped on it. Next, Zhuowen became even more cautious. However, no matter how careful Zhuowen was, he still encountered all kinds of dangers along the way. Most of these dangers came from the bloodthirsty strange beasts in the natural chasm. Fortunately, Zhuowen's strength was terrifying enough, so he was able to resist the attacks of these terrifying strange beasts and continue forward. However, Zhuowen was a little worried about Crepe Myrtle Starlord. Back then, Crepe Myrtle Starlord had confidently left the Great Brahma domain, intending to enter the Xianmi heavenly domain through the natural chasm. Although Crepe Myrtle Starlord's strength was not bad, in front of the terrifying strange beasts in the natural chasm, it was still not enough. Any one of these strange beasts could exhaust Crepe Myrtle Starlord, not to mention the most annoying gravity of the natural chasm. He didn't understand the natural chasm at all back then. If he had known how terrifying the natural chasm was, he wouldn't have let Crepe Myrtle Starlord leave alone. I hope my old friend can successfully cross the natural chasm. Zhuowen sighed softly. Although he knew that Crepe Myrtle Starlord's chances of survival in the natural chasm were slim, he still prayed in his heart. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, Zhuowen sensed a frightening energy fluctuation from far in front of him. He knew that there should be two experts fighting in front of him. This was the aftermath of their battle. From the fluctuations, it could be seen that the two combatants were at least Eternal Overlord. Zhuowen summoned the Beast Bone Formation Disc and set up several layers of concealment formations on the surface of the spacetime wheel. Only then was the aura of the spacetime wheel completely concealed. Afterward, Zhuowen continued to move forward. As he sensed more and more intense fluctuations, Zhuowen knew that the battle ahead must be extremely fierce. Zhuowen didn't dare to get too close. Instead, he found a rather large meteorite nearby and hid behind it, shrinking his head as he looked ahead. He saw that a few thousand meters ahead, two huge strange beasts were fighting fiercely. Chapter 2708 Origin of Earth. Upon closer inspection, Zhuowen discovered that the two strange beasts were over 10,000 feet in size. One of them looked like a leopard, but its entire body was covered in crocodile-like scales. Its bones were as hard as steel, and its strength was extraordinary. Every time it clashed, it bared its cold fangs and sharp claws. The other strange beast was furry all over, like a fur ball. At first glance, it looked very cute, but Zhuowen wouldn't overlook the terror of this strange beast just because of its appearance. Every attack of this strange beast contained earth-shattering power. Even Zhuowen couldn't ignore it. Without a doubt, the two strange beasts in front of him were both Eternal Overlord-level existences. Moreover, Zhuowen discovered that these two strange beasts were even more terrifying than the Kong Shi of the Phoenix people. In a one-on-one fight, Zhuowen wouldn't be a match for either of them, unless he used Hou Yi's divine arrow. Upon closer inspection, Zhuowen discovered a stone pillar standing in the center of the two strange beasts' battle. The stone pillar was crystal clear, as if it was carved out of jade. The surface of the stone pillar was especially engraved with dragons and phoenixes, birds and beasts. All of this was to set off the earth-yellow bead at the top of the stone pillar. What a dense aura of earth! Is this the origin of Earth? The moment Zhuowen noticed the earth-yellow bead at the top of the stone pillar, he also sensed the extremely dense aura of Earth within the bead. He immediately guessed that this bead contained the origin of Earth. Zhuowen had obtained the origin of ice before, so he wasn't unfamiliar with the origin of elemental elements. Moreover, the origin of Earth was even more useful than the origin of ice. This was because the origin of Earth could create the Earth. It was the origin of the Earth, and also the origin of the world. If Zhuowen could obtain the origin of Earth and integrate it into the Devourer King's internal space, Zhuowen believed that it would only be a matter of time before the Devourer King's internal space transformed into a great world. Zhuowen glanced at the two strange beasts that were still fighting fiercely. He knew that these two strange beasts were fighting because of the origin of Earth. Zhuowen did not rashly make a move immediately. Instead, he silently lay in wait. Any one of these two exotic beasts was extremely powerful. Moreover, they were in a state of frenzy right now. If Zhuowen tried to snatch it now, he would probably be attacked by the two exotic beasts together. However, if the two exotic beasts were both injured, or if one of them fell, it would be the best time for Zhuowen to snatch the Earth origin. Boom! Boom! The battle between the two exotic beasts grew more and more intense. Powerful ripples spread out, causing many of the nearby exotic beasts to flee, not daring to stay for long. Zhuowen held his breath, not daring to act rashly. He noticed that the two exotic beasts seemed to be inadvertently glancing in his direction during the battle. Obviously, the two exotic beasts had discovered him. However, the two exotic beasts did not pay too much attention to him, nor did they have any intention of ferreting out Zhuowen. Instead, they continued to fight fiercely, not stopping until one of them was dead. Zhuowen knew that because his aura wasn't strong, the two exotic beasts obviously didn't think much of him. That was why the two exotic beasts continued to fight. Roar! Suddenly, the leopard covered in scales let out a loud roar. The scales all over its body began to stand up, revealing cold metal plates. The moment these metal plates stood up, they grew to a terrifying length of several dozen zhang. Each metal plate was like a mountain of metal, a shocking sight to behold. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After the metal plates stopped growing, they actually shot out like a rain of metal, enveloping the furball monster. The furball monster was caught off guard and was pierced by these metal plates, causing it to howl in pain. These metal plates were too sharp and huge. Each of them pierced deep into its innards, and the countless metal plates seemed to have turned it into mush from the inside out. In just an instant, the furball monster was turned into a bloody mess. It was a tragic sight, with blood splattering everywhere like a rain of blood. It was an exceptionally terrifying sight. After releasing those metal plates, the leopard's entire body became bare, and blood flowed out from its skin. The scales were originally the leopard's skin, and now that the scales had fallen off, it was as if the skin had been peeled off. Its injuries could be said to be quite serious. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. The move the leopard had used was clearly a desperate attack. Although it had severely injured the furball monster, it had also suffered extremely serious injuries. Logically speaking, this should be the best time to make a move, but Zhuowen still did not make a move. His gaze fell on the furball monster, and his consciousness locked onto it. At this moment, the furball monster was almost a bloody mess, a tragic sight. Although it was weak, it had not completely lost its life. Roar! The furball monster raised its head to the sky and roared. Its body swelled several times, and then it began to spin rapidly, rushing toward the leopard at high speed. The furball monster's rolling speed was simply too fast. Before Zhuowen could react, the furball monster had already slammed into the leopard's body. The terrifying speed created an extremely powerful impact. The leopard let out a mournful cry and was sent flying. One of its front legs was directly smashed and torn apart. The furball monster did not give up. It turned into a spinning ball again and again, slamming into the leopard's body again and again. However, the leopard was too weak, and the furball monster was too fast. The leopard could only passively endure the furball monster's terrifying attack. Poochie! The moment the furball monster slammed into the leopard's body again, the leopard raised its head to the sky and roared. Its huge body directly collapsed, and blood stained the void, turning into a mournful river of blood. It was an extremely tragic sight. Zhuowen's heart trembled. The furball monster's attack was too terrifying. Even if it was him, he would not be able to do anything if he faced that high spinning speed. He might not even be able to react in time. Poochie! A large amount of blood gushed out of the furball monster's body. It collapsed to the side on the verge of death. The furball monster was already heavily injured, and now that it had used such a desperate move, the burden was too heavy. Its life was now in danger. However, the furball monster's vitality was extremely tenacious. Although it was on the verge of death, it still struggled to touch the stone pillar. It was clearly concerned about the Earth origin on the stone pillar. Zhuowen knew that it was time for him to make a move. Zhuowen controlled the space-time roulette and turned into a streak of light. In a few breaths' time, he had arrived at the stone pillar. Zhuowen did not hesitate to take the Earth origin bead in his hand and store it in his pocket dimension. At this moment, the furball monster was slowly approaching and was about to touch the Earth origin. However, it did not expect that the human who had been hiding on the side would suddenly snatch it away. The furball monster was enraged. It actually ignored the terrifying injuries on its body and rolled once more. It actually planned to use that desperate move again. Zhuowen grabbed the Earth origin and controlled the space-time roulette to immediately escape. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.